Could we please promote Andrea Genero for a panelist? Thank you.
Sorry, everyone. I'm trying to find my agenda. Okay. Are we waiting on anyone? I only see.
Commissioner, we are live on YouTube as well as UGTV.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started. But before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID, some committee members, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is a current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. The public also will have an opportunity to provide brief comments from the lobby of the Municipal Office Building. I will now call the meeting of the Economic Development and Finance Standing Committee to order. I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Roll call. Haley.
Present.
Davis.
Here.
Townsend.
Present.
Stites.
Here.
McKiernan. And we do have a memo that he is going to be absent. And Burroughs. Burroughs.
Yeah, oh, here, sorry. I was looking to see what notes I had about who was going to be gone. Okay, we do have minutes to approve from the November 8th meeting, and I would entertain a motion to do so.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Townsend, District 1, move to approve those minutes as submitted.
Davis, second.
Thank you, Commissioners. We have a motion and a second. I would ask the clerk, please call roll. Clerk, are we coming through?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Haley.
I would ask,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Burroughs.
aye. Aye. Thank you, committee. I do want to welcome Senator Haley from the Board of Public Utility member tonight. Thank you, David, for joining us. That takes us to our first item, which is an ordinance authorizing the issuance of sales tax special obligation revenue star bonds, series 2022, not to exceed 160 million for the purpose of providing funds to finance eligible costs relating to the Homefield development in the Village East project areas 2B, 3, and 5. This item has been requested to be fast-tracked to this Thursday's commission meeting on August 7th. I'll recognize at this time Kathleen Von Atchen.
Thank you, Commissioner Burroughs. I am going to share my screen for a presentation. Oops. All right. So tonight we're presenting the issuance of star bonds for the Homefield project, and that's based specifically the Village East redevelopment project areas 2B, 3, and 5. Sorry, it's for a major multi-sport athletic complex and themed hotel project. It also will be covering the refinancing or the payoff, actually, of the 2015 B bonds. So with us tonight are a variety of members of the financing team. And here they are listed, and all of them are listed in the official statement which you have been provided. So you've been provided all of the bond documents, including our official statement. So the financial advisor is Elizabeth Bergman from Baker Tilly. We have representatives from the development team, which is HFS KCK LLC. Rob Heineman is the chief executive officer, and also with us are some of his team members. Also with us is Gina Rieckhoff, who is with Gilmore Bell, our bond counsel, and Todd LaSala, who is our development lawyer. And Deborah Rush is the lawyer representing the underwriter who was the key person in writing the official statement. And some of the other team members include Andy Stuckhoff, who is the vice president of PGAV Planners, which is the firm who did our revenue study, which I'll be discussing, and Jim Leahy and John Klaus, who are with Stiefel, the underwriter for our municipal bond or star bond issue. So tonight, what I'm going to do is talk a little bit give a little bit of an introduction of here, and then talk a little bit about what star bonds are, an overview of the project, an overview of the Village East redevelopment area, and then also specifically the Homefield multi-sport complex in more detail, an outline of the revenue study conducted by PGAV, and then the schedule for our bond financing. So just to in case others are not aware, Star Bonds is actually a strategic economic development tool that allows municipalities in Kansas to issue bonds to finance major commercial and entertainment and tourism projects. And what makes it unique from other, say, tax increment financing tools is that it partners with the state of Kansas, and we utilize as a pledge for the repayment of the bonds tax revenue from not only our own local sales tax and its tax increment, but also tax increment from the state. And what do we mean by tax increment? Well, this chart down below explains it. If, for example, when we established this flower bond district, we did a calculation of how much sales tax and transient guest tax revenue had been generated in the past in that specific, within the boundaries of that specific district. And that became the base sales. And so the project itself is that we're proposing for paying off, for issuing these bonds will be paid off from additional revenue above the base, or what we call the increment. Just briefly, the pledged revenues are 100% of the state sales tax increment within the Star Bond District, which the state's income tax or the sales tax is 6.5%. 100% of the tax increment on the local side, which is 1% for the city and 0.932% for the county. And by the way, this does not impact or does not utilize any of the dedicated sales tax within that we have for public safety, neighborhood infrastructure, or EMS. And then 100% of the transient guest tax that we collect, which is 7.84% of a hotel sales. So one of the requirements, briefly, of the Star Bonds is that the bond proceeds may only be used for state-approved eligible costs. The maturity for the bonds cannot exceed 20 years, and the bond financing can't exceed the 50% of the total project cost. And the last thing is that the Star Bonds need to be matched with a minimum of 75 million in private capital investment. And we'll show more how this project meets all those requirements in the coming slides. So just to give you a broad overview, that this project is referred to as the Homefield project. What we're issuing here is it's located within the Village East redevelopment area, and it's estimated to collect roughly $9 million a year in new property tax at build out, which will happen about 3 years from now. Now, one thing that I should point out is that earlier this year in January, the unified government entered into an important development agreement with the developer, which is going to serve to strengthen the competitive position of the Village East redevelopment area for many years to come. And so this specific project is only with respect to project areas 2B, 3, and 5. And it includes the Homefields building, the Homefields outdoor, perfect game baseball, and many baseball fields. But it also includes a unique destination experience, which is the Margaritaville Hotel and Resort. And the total project cost is estimated right now to be $648 million, and of which these STAR bonds are going to be funding about $130 million in net bond proceeds for this project. So the rest is private investment by the developer and his associates. So at build out, we're estimating to collect roughly $10 million in new property tax revenue. The bonds are, these bonds are a special limited obligation, and it's only payable from and secured by the specific pledged revenues or tax increment from sales and transient guest tax by both the state and the unified government. And along with the net proceeds, which is going to fund a portion of the $648 million project, within that is included an $8.5 million in financing to pay off the series 2015 STAR bonds, and which will remove that UG agreement that we currently have on the 2015 Bs, which has an annual appropriation clause on it that basically says that, well, at the moment, the 2000 Bs have this annual appropriation clause, which says that if the respective revenues pledged for those bonds that were issued in 2015 fall short of meeting debt service, then the monies have to come from city general revenues. So by refinancing it with the proceeds of these STAR bonds, we will be removing that annual debt appropriation clause for this bond series. So here's a map of the Village East STAR bond project areas that we're talking about, and this is only with respect to the STAR bonds we're issuing tonight. Or asking for your approval tonight. And as you can see here, and we've of course talked a lot about this project in the past, but we just thought maybe it would be a good idea to give you a broad overview. Once again, for those who have not seen the many meetings we've had. So project area B is this orange area that starts up here with the Auto Mall and Freddy's and Fairfield, and it curves around here. All of it is, of course, on the east side of 435 and follows this road here, and then ends up along State Avenue. The project area 3 includes Menards in here, and then project area 5 are the pink, which are scattered along here, but also here on this corner, and then out here off of 90th Street. So just to give you an overview, you understand that the Village East redevelopment area is a project area that started way back, and I can show you that timeline. And right now there are 6 different project areas within the Village East redevelopment district. There's and it's roughly about 948 acres. And here's all the various districts. Project area 1 was the location of the former Schlitterbahn Water Park, and project area 2A includes automotive and restaurant pads. 2B, more automotive and commercial and retail establishments. Project area 3 has that 400 square foot retail and office and entertainment facility. Project Area 4 is where the U.S. Soccer Training and Coaching Facility, a tournament fields complex, is located, as well as the Homefields building. And then Project Area 5 is the planned Margaritaville Resort and a portion of the Homefields Outdoor and Perfect Game. So as I mentioned, the timeline, Village East, the Village East district started way back in 2005 when there was a development agreement entered into with SBV. And then subsequently, about 4 or 5 years later, the Schlitterbahn Water Park was opened in 2009 or 10. It was then later expanded or divided into 5 different project areas and then renamed Village East. It used to be Vacation Village, and then it got renamed to Village East back in 2014. And then in that same time period, the Auto Plaza opened, and the Series 2015 Turbo Cap bond issue was done, which paid for the soccer stadium. The Series 2015 A and B bond issues were issued, and those paid for those developments in the northern part of the district. Later, the project area 2 was divided into 2A and 2B. That happened in 2016. And then the U.S. Soccer National Training Facility was opened. In 2018, if I remember, or 17 or 18, the Schlitterbahn Water Park closed. And then in 2019 began the efforts to redevelop the many other parts of the Village East redevelopment project area, district. So project area 5 was expanded. The land for where the Schlitter Park was previously located was purchased, and the Homefields redevelopment agreement was entered into with our current developer. So, and all of this brings us to our current status, which is that we're now bringing forward to you the opportunity to issue STAR bonds for this Homefields project. So generally speaking, here's an example of the many retail activities that are not only there currently, but also planned in the future. And this map has been shown in the presentations that we have been provided previously. So of course we have a variety of partners, and I won't get into them too much, but here's some additional information. Some of the development partners we've been working with within the Village East district has been Menards, and the variety of auto dealers that we have with Toyota, Victory, Honda, Ford, and Nissan. We also, this Village East district also includes the headquarters of Dairy Farmers of America, as well as Frontier Justice. So in 2015, the Kansas Secretary of Commerce approved the authority of the UG to issue STAR bonds to finance the costs of the water park and Auto Plaza. And those STAR bonds were the parameters of those STAR bonds was to fund up to 100 million exclusive of certain financing costs, and that the UG would pledge 100% of the city and county sales tax, as well as any available transient guest tax to repay these 2015 A and B bonds. So as you can see in this table, in 2015, the A's were issued at 72.9 million, and the B's were issued at 12.3 million, for a total of $85 million. And those are currently in project areas 1 and 2A. The current outstanding balance of these bonds is 16.3 million for A and 8.5 million for B. The final maturity is, this is supposed to be 2035. So the first one is for 2031, and then the second is for 2035. And this is the bond issue that we're going to be folding into the new STAR bonds by refinancing them in that manner. So the pledged revenues for the 2015 A and B bonds have not come in as were projected by the GAI revenue study conducted at the time that the bonds were issued. And as you can see, the city and the county sales tax revenue, sales tax and transient guest tax revenue is the blue, and the state portion is, well, the dark blue, and the state portion is that light blue portion. And this red line is what the GAI moderate projection had in their revenue study back in 2015, 7 years ago. And as you can see, the red line is quite a bit higher than the actual revenues that had been collected. And the reason for that is that due to the closure of the water park as well as the pandemic, at least in the most recent 2 years. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the Homefields, the current project. So the Homefields project, of course, is being led by Homefield founder Rob Heineman, who is the co-owner of Sporting KC soccer team. The Homefield's mission is to help youth athletes develop their skills in top-notch facilities and development programs. So through the development firm HFS KCK LLC, he's purchased the former Schlitterbahn Water Park and undeveloped parcels in Project 2B, 3, and A, and has already commenced demolition. There's a very important development agreement that was then entered into at the beginning of this year. And it allowed for, at least for the Homefield project, it allowed for 60 million or 150,000 square foot indoor multi-sport facility in project area for a $15 million outdoor multi-sport venue in project area 1, and a $40 million youth baseball complex in project areas 4 and 5. So many amenities with this portion of the development agreement are planned for this project. With regard to the themed hotel, there's an $85 million Margaritaville hotel and resort that is planned, which will have 250 rooms, and which may also include amenities such as food and beverage options, pools and water features, retail offerings, and meeting space and a spa. And the theme hotel will be designed and constructed and operated in a manner that's consistent with the quality and that is provided in various other Margarita Lake resorts, such as the one in Lake Conroe. The developer also covenants that this theme hotel will be in place for at least 10 years. So some of the deadlines in the development agreement include that that construction will commence on or before December 31st of this year and will be completed and various facilities opened by January 1st or July 1st of 2024. And that the themed hotel and the Homefields outdoor will commence construction within 1 year of the issuance of these STAR bonds and be completed within 3 years of that issuance date. So just to give you an idea of the size of this project, these two pies add up to the same amount, which is the total project cost of $648 million. And of which this navy blue represents the private level of investment of $518 million, or 80% of the total. And the public portion will be $130 million. That's what these STAR bonds are. So the STAR bonds actually, and I'll talk in much more detail about this later, but the issuance of the STAR bonds is for $152 million at this time, because there's additional financing related costs that are tacked on on top of the net proceeds that we're expecting to give towards the project. So this $130 million is the net proceeds amount towards the project. Now, the total project cost broken up by, the type of components for the project are here. And you can see the largest one is for, I think it's the largest one, $164 million for acquisition of commercial lots, $116 million for the hotel, $115 million for Homefield activity or buildings and facilities. There's some $18 million for land acquisition, updates to the soccer stadium and other soccer fields with $67 million, and the rest. So there's a lot of things happening with this project. We're very excited about it. So now when we issue STAR bonds, we are required by, and of course it's a best practice, to hire a third-party consulting firm that does an independent projection of the pledged sales tax revenues and sales tax and transient guest tax revenues. And that firm was PGAV, and the actual revenue study is provided in your packet for you to read. But I have provided some summary information of those projections. So when the independent consultant does their work, what they look at is the existing development and how much money is being generated with the existing vendors that are there in place already, and then projects how much those revenues will grow into the future, or potentially will be positively impacted by the development in the other areas, or by other vendors that are added to the area as a result of the STAR bonds. So Freddy Frozen Custard Restaurant is one of the existing development vendors, and we're estimating that $2.3 million annually will be generated in sales volume from Freddy's Frozen Custard. There's also the Menards Home Improvement Supplies Department store, which we are projecting that their annual taxable sales volume per square foot will be $235. The Frontier Justice Firearms Retailer, which is also in operations right now, we're estimating that those taxable sales will be $8 million. And remember, this is the taxable sales, not the sales tax revenue. So this is the volume of retail activity that we're referring to here. The Camping World recreational vehicle retailer is currently under construction and expected to commence operations in October of 2022. We're estimating sales volume of 40 million from that retailer, and as well as the Jeep Sport Utility vehicle dealership, which we are expecting those revenues to be, or not revenues, but the annual taxable sales to be roughly $36 million. One thing to note is that the proceeds from the Jeep Sport Utility dealership are pledged to the 2015 A bonds until they are paid off. And then after that, they will be pledged to the STAR bonds that we're issuing tonight. And so that's not expected to happen until roughly 2035, if I remember right. But we are expecting this Jeep sports utility vehicles dealership to actually open and be operational in the spring of 2023. So some of the new, yes.
Yes. How many more sheets do you have? Because we do have the resolution for the sports facility revenue bonds and Homefield baseball complex. I believe we've had this presentation, and I appreciate you walking through it and being as thorough as you are to give the commission an idea how the structure of the bond is set up. But is there a way we can pick this up just a little bit?
Okay, so the following slides kind of outline the demographics that the independent consultant used to develop his projections. And so these slides here then on slide 19 and 20 actually outline it specifically over the next 5 years, how much in retail sales by each vendor is going to be collected for each of the 3 project areas that are going to be supporting this bond issue. Let me, so generally speaking, here is how it's broken out. So these are the project areas, and here's the $304 million that are expected to be collected over the 20-year period. This same revenue is broken up by the local sales and local transient guest tax amounts, as well as the amount coming from the state. And it's always a good reminder that the state is a huge partner in this, and they must approve all of these projects. So as you can see, 205 million of the total revenues projected is coming from the state of Kansas and with their 6.5% sales tax. I think Commissioner Townsend has a question.
I don't see the hands. I apologize, committee.
No?
Commissioner Townsend?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Bonatch. And the question I have goes back several slides. But a couple of things I want to clarify. I thought I heard you mentioned that with respect to this item 1 and the ordinance for Homefield Star Bond issue, is it the annual expected tax revenue each year will be 10 million? I wrote down 10, an annual figure.
The 10 million, let me see, the 10 million, yeah, I'm forgetting now.
This is after build out. Those are the notes I took.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
And that's just property tax. So. Yeah.
Correct. But I just want to make sure I understood. So the anticipated after build out new to the coffers of the unified government is 10 million.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second thing was, I think this goes back to your discussion on, I think slide about 14. I was trying to keep up with it. I heard you mention $152 million in Star Bond, 130 million, and then I'm seeing 160 million. So again, what are the significance of those numbers? If the 130 is our investment, the UG's investment, courtesy of the Star Bonds, or is it 152 million? I'm a bit confused what these numbers mean.
Okay, so yes. So the documents you have in front of you project authorized Star Bonds at the level of 160 million, but that's actually sort of, it has some cushion because the market keeps moving, and we just want to make sure that we have enough authorization to move forward once we do the pricing, which will happen in a few weeks here.
Okay.
But in reality, right now, based on the actual numbers, which we have been working with the underwriter, and given current market conditions, we're expecting the total bond issue to actually be not 160, but 152 million. Now, 150, and I'm going to get into why it's 150, what's the difference between that 152 and the 130 here in the next slide here.
Okay. You've answered my questions going back to those slides. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. So right off the bat, we are so this slide shows the preliminary term. It's the terms of the Star Bonds. So as I mentioned, we're anticipating that the par amount of the bonds will be issued it totals $152 million. Of that 152, only 130 million is anticipated to be deposited into the project fund, or the net proceeds for projects. The difference between that 152 and the 130 are these other financing type activities that I'll explain. So, for example, we're anticipating that we will be paying off the outstanding bonds for the 2015 Bs, and that's $8.6 million. We are establishing a debt reserve, which is $10 million, and that reflects 18 months of the debt service at the highest level throughout the 20-year period. So that's sort of a safety net for when we, if we run into any kind of issues with revenue collection in the future, we'll have those monies set aside to make our debt service payments on these bonds. So that, of course, at the end of the term, when the 20 years is up, if we've made, of course, all the payments towards debt service on time, then that $10 million will be available to make that last payment of debt service. So as a result, we will actually, pay off the bonds roughly 6 months early. So that money's available to make the last debt service payment, but it's also available throughout the bond issue in case there are some issues with the reserves. It also includes another $3.3 million for capitalized interest during the construction period, as well as some cost of issuance to our underwriter and financing team. Generally, all the bond issue has been deemed by or opined by our bond counsel to be a tax exempt bond issuance. These bonds will not be rated by Moody's or S&P or Fitch. They're non-rated bonds. And the first maturity or the final stated maturity is March 1st of 2041. And this capitalized interest that I mentioned of 3.3 million it has been calculated through September 10th of 2022. Those investors that are eligible to buy these bonds are accredited investors or qualified institutional buyers. The debt service payment is structured so that we will be making debt service payment on March 1st and September 1st of each year. And then there will be 3 term bonds with a semi-annual super sinker redemption, which I'll show you here in a moment. So of course, there's also a restricted bond proceeds amount. So of the 130 million, 20 million is going to be set aside in this restricted account, which we refer to as the escrow account. And that's to ensure that the Margaritaville starts their construction and completes it according to the parameters set forth in the development agreement. We are proposing that 5 million of the $20 million would be provided to the developer once he starts construction of the Margaritaville hotel, but with the remaining 15 million provided to the developer after he completes the Margaritaville hotel. And the reason that this is in place is to ensure or to provide enough incentive for the developer to, in fact, build and construct all of the facilities that are discussed in the development agreement. And so I'm almost done. Just one or two slides more. So this is the bond structure. There are 3 term bonds, and these are the expected coupon rates for those 3 term bonds that we'll be selling to investors. And they have different maturity rates. March of 2022. 2038 and then 2041. Now, we did our underwriter did some analysis given the current market conditions and about a week ago. So the market's still moving quite a bit. And if all of 100% of the projected revenues, as were detailed in the revenue study, were to come in as anticipated, then this green line, which shows the amount of revenues compared with debt service. So the debt service, here's all the revenues here, right? And then the debt service is this green line. So as you can see, basically with the redemption of the bonds, we would have sufficient revenues to pay off the last term early. And so as a result, debt service would drop off because the debt service would be, all the debt service would be paid down. But if revenues came in 78% of the projected level, then the revenues would be sufficient to make this level of debt service payment over the period.
Good.
Mhm. All right, so the financing schedule is for us to go before the full commission on April 7th. And once that's done on this Thursday, we will be posting the preliminary statement for our potential bond investors. The actual pricing of the bonds will happen the 19th and 20th around that time. And then we expect to distribute the final official statement on the 25th, with closing happening on May 3rd. So quite a fast financing, but we've been working on this bond issue for several years now. In your packet is the list are all of these documents as listed, including the bond ordinance, indenture, the tax distribution agreement, tax compliant agreement, bond purchase agreement, the continuing disclosure undertaking, and the preliminary official statement, the revenue study, and the term sheet. So if you have any questions, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Kathleen. Very thorough overview. I appreciate you expediting it a little bit. As you stated, this has been out here a while. We do have a few new commissioners, but at this time, I do want to open it up for public comment. But before I do that, I'd like to acknowledge Commissioner Townsend. You had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Townsend, District 1. Madam CFO, if you could go back to, I think it's maybe one or two screens prior to the one right there. Again, what was the significance you talked about, and I can't see this entirely on my screen. What is the significance of the difference in these two lines, one at 100% projected revenues and one at 78%? What was the significance of that you're trying to show us or tell us with that?
Yeah, well, so with the super sinker redemption bond structure, what it basically allows us to do is, as revenues come in, and when these terms, when the years of these terms are met, then we can basically, pay the debt off early, let's say. So what this is telling, the green is showing that if the revenues come in as the revenue consultant has projected, then we anticipate that we will be paying off these bonds early. And that's why the green lines doesn't go all the way to 2041. It ends roughly in 2038 because enough revenues will be sufficient to pay redeem those outstanding bonds early. But if the revenues come in roughly 78% of the total projected revenues, right? Which these are the blue is the total projected revenues at 100%. If they only came in at 78%, we would still be able to meet the debt service and the term bond requirements, but it wouldn't be until 2041. So that's sort of a worst and best case scenario, in other words.
And is 2041 the deadline, so to speak, for the payoff?
Yeah, that's the final maturity.
All right. Thank you very much. That answered my question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Quite welcome, Commissioner. Does any other commissioner have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I will ask that does any member from the public wish to address this item? If so, please come to the microphone, state your name, city of residency for the record. You will be given up to 3 minutes to make your comments. I see we have Reverend Audrey Showalter Matlock.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Reverend Adri Showalter Matlock. I'm a resident of KCK and the operations director at Groundwork NRG. I just had a question, just wondering for a point of comparison, how much staff time has been spent on negotiating this project? And how does that compare to the amount of staff time spent in other areas of the city?
Well, yeah, a lot of staff time has been spent negotiating this project. Luckily for us, we do have several consultants that have assisted us with that, including bond counsel Gina Rekoff from Gilmore and Bell, and Todd LaSala from Postinelli, and Catherine Carter has also been very involved in the negotiation of the development agreement. And Catherine is on the line if she wants to comment. I'm not sure that we've actually quantified the number of hours that have been spent, but they certainly have been sizable. And frankly, though, I don't think it's any different than any other large star bond or large economic development project that's has been undertaken in the past. I mean, I think it was pretty comparable to those projects.
As a point of comparison, though, can you compare it to how much time is maybe been spent over the last year in other districts?
If I may, Reverend and Commissioner Burroughs, at large district too, I believe we're talking about the financing mechanism here. I believe that legal can get you that information. This project is of significance. There has been much discussion with the state as well as local discussion in reference to taking down the property, refinancing former bonds, and looking at the continued development. The due diligence done by the unified government was slowed down by your commission to make sure that those answers that you're proposing now would be addressed. We didn't want to run this thing right through. But with that, if legal wants to answer that comment, I don't know that Kathleen has all the information to answer that comment or question.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Patrick Waters, Deputy Chief Counsel. I, of course, don't have the information off the top of my head or available right now, but if the Reverend would want to follow up later on and make an open records request, we can see what we can find on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Reverend. I show Commissioner Stites. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner, before I go to you, is there any other members of the public that wish to speak? Seeing none. Commissioner Stites.
Stites, District 7. I think, and I want to confirm, but I think I'm right on previous presentations that I have been involved with, that the developer in this process has paid all of, and I know the question was pertaining probably to time, but the developer has paid for all of third-party outside costs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, it's we entered into a funding agreement with the developer, and yeah, and those costs have been reimbursed by the developer. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis.
I'll say this very quickly. So I think it's important for the public, and just, when we are presenting more on this, because I know there are various economic development stages and things that we need to approve, that this deal does come with a commitment of $4.5 million for East of 635 development, 500 free tickets to Parks and Rec, as well as an agreement to work with the school districts to provide some use of the facilities. And so I think the earlier question was kind of on the east-west comparison. This actually, I think, kind of sets the foundation and hopefully the floor for other economic development deals that we can leverage for development east of 635. With that being said, Chair, I know we have 3 different items, and I don't know how you wanted to attack this, but I move to approve this one. Thank you. Stites, District 7, second.
Thank you, commissioners. We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. I see no other hands. I'd ask clerk, please call a roll.
Roll call. Haley,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Burroughs.
Aye. Thank you, committee. That takes us to our second item, which is an action item, and it's part of this development, Homefield Sports Facility Industrial Revenue Bonds. This is a resolution of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds in the amount not to exceed 65,000. It was supposed to be 65 million to finance costs of acquiring, construction, and equipping the Homefield Sports Building. This item has been requested to be fast tracked to the Thursday's commission meeting on April 7th, and I believe Catherine Carter will be here to present on this item. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you very much. Catherine Carter, Director of Economic Development. I am going to kind of explain these items as a pair. They would require two separate votes, and they are two separate components of the overall Homefield project. So to first preface this is all has been already kind of in conceptually has been unanimously approved by the Unified Government Commission in the development agreement back on January 27th. So this is really just that next step. So a lot of times with economic development projects, and you can see here with Kathleen's item that we just discussed, you know, this is something, again, kind of conceptually approved in development agreement. This is the next step, and we'll surely, this will not be your last vote on a component of this, a project of this magnitude. So what is coming before you today, just kind of a reminder, we have agreed, oh, and I just saw a typo, I will reference that in a second. So what we have done is looked at because this is a STAR bond project, like all of our other STAR bond projects, they will pay property tax. So all of the privately financed components, your camping world, the hotel, et cetera. Actually, I'll just go to this. So a lot of these other items, all full property tax. The exception that we made was for the actual Homefield components. So there are three components to that. The Homefield sports complex, the baseball complex, and Homefield outdoor. With those, we're not quite there with Homefield outdoor, but with both the Homefield indoor complex and the baseball complex, the Homefield indoor sports complex is a $65 million project. Homefield baseball is a $45 million project. We agreed, again, in the development agreement, you have the pilot schedules there that were part of that back in January, so nothing has changed. That we would put a predictive pilot schedule in place for the next 10 years to, again, be able to provide that predictability and assurance that this is kind of what you all can put into your budgets and your pro forma for the next 10 years, know exactly to the penny what you will be paying, et cetera. So I will get a little more into that. You, of course, all are aware of this project. Kathleen just went through a great presentation, but this is the parcel that will have Homefield indoor, have that complex on it, right on State Avenue and 90th Street. That's a rendering. Then the next project is the baseball complex. This is, for reference, just south of Providence Hospital. This is formerly Archdiocese land. So a couple of things, just timing, structure. Timing, we're looking for both of these to open by July 1st of 2024. So, you know, we're on a pretty, as far as, again, projects of this large magnitude, on a pretty fast timeline. And again, these are predictable IRBs. So putting in place a structure that really just shows them what their property tax would be for that 10 years. This is related, but I just wanted to make this note because I think it's important. So as with all projects that receive any type of unified government local assistance, there are minority women and local business enterprise participation goals in place. I just want to reference this because normally when we're talking about an IRB, we have two different schedules. So one, if they meet those goals, one, if they do not meet these goals. And This time we did not do that. And the reason is because they have actually a far more significant remedy and a sooner remedy for the unified government as part of the STAR bond process. So if they do not comply with this as part of that disbursement, while they're still in construction, we would take that last 4%, which when you are talking again about $160 million, 4% is a very significant amount of money. And that would be the remedy in that case. So that's why you don't see what you normally see with the schedule, which is if they meet the goals and if they don't. So just a quick note there. This is straight an exhibit directly from, again, the development agreement that you previously approved back in January. I do want to reference that for the parcel where the Homefield building is going to be built, they're paying a current, this has actually increased substantially in the last couple of years, but their current annual taxes as of 2022 are just under $5,000 annually. Once they build and have this pilot structure in place, they will be paying, they'll start out at $241,000. There will be a 1% annual escalator, and they will end about almost $264,000. So for that 10 years where we would have received about $50,000, we will receive about $2.5 million because of this development. So we think, again, the predictability, knowing they can plan for this. Same with the baseball complex. Right now, that Archdiocese land is paying about $2,600 annually. It's actually a larger parcel, but has had nothing on there for years and years and years. So they will be paying just over $100,000 annually. That will again escalate every year, and so we'll have over $1 million for that property when we would have received less than $30,000 over the course of that same 10-year period. So with that, again, these are two separate resolution of intent to issue bonds. So two separate items, and happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Catherine. Does any member of the committee have any questions or comments? I see Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, I don't really have a question or anything. I do see Commissioner Ramirez here, and I believe he is taking Commissioner McKiernan's spot. And so, Chair, I don't know how you want to recognize that, but I just wanted to make that known. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. My apologies to Commissioner Ramirez. Seeing no other questions or comments, does anyone from the public wish to address this item? If so, please go to the microphone, state your name, city of residency for the record. You will be given up to 3 minutes to make your comments. Staff, I don't see anybody. Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Oh, excuse me, just a minute. We have Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, Commissioner Davis, move for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Stites, second.
There's been a motion and a second. I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call. Haley,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
and Ramirez for McKiernan,
Aye.
and Burroughs.
Aye. Thank you, committee. That takes us to item 3, the Homefield Baseball Complex Industrial Revenue Bonds. This is our third item, and it's a resolution of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds in the amount not to exceed $65 million to finance costs of acquiring, constructing, and equipping the Homefield sports building. And Catherine, that sounds very much like the one we had just earlier.
Yes, it should be 45 million.
Okay, great. That was a typo.
That typo.
That's
Yeah.
right. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure. Please, Catherine, go right ahead.
So I would just kind of reiterate everything I just said. Can kind of go over those numbers again, but I kind of went through both. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from committee? Seeing none, do we have any? Oh, I do have some. I apologize. Commissioner Davis?
I was going to move for approve, but if Commissioner Townsend has one, go for it.
Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question was if Ms. Carter could differentiate the difference between the two. I see the difference in the dollars, but it's just the subject matter seems to be almost identical. So if you could clarify for me the difference in these two resolutions and their purpose, because the question I would have is why wasn't just rolled into one resolution and more money? So that's my question.
Happy to, and I apologize for not making this clear. So these are two separate parcels of ground. One is an actual indoor facility for sports training that looks like this. So that is the first one that you all just voted on for not to exceed $65 million. The second is, again, this 8-field complex, baseball complex on the connected property that was formerly owned by the Archdiocese, right by Providence Hospital. And this is the not to exceed $45 million. The Homefield development team has an agreement and contract with Perfect Game. They would be the management group for these fields, which is, I think, a really positive thing for our community. They're really high, very high analytics and all sorts of things. It's quite the attraction for our community. So there are two kind of separate projects there. And then as you can see here, kind of depending on what we would anticipate those appraisals to be, that's how we came up with the different pilot schedules. So, that's why the Homefield building, because that's $65 million, up to $65 million building. That's why we have the higher pilot schedule for the next 10 years versus the Perfect Game Homefield baseball complex. So I hope that answered your question, but happy to go into further detail.
No, that does. I just wanted to be clear about the differentiation and the latter project, the analytics part, and the fields, the outdoor part, was one of the more recent additions over the last year to this whole Homefields project. Thank you. That answered my question.
Thank you, Commissioner. I would ask the clerk if any comments were received from the public.
There were no communication received.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, committee, I'd entertain a motion.
Davis District 8, move to approve.
Stites District 7, second.
We do have a motion and a second. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Haley,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Burroughs.
Aye. Thank you, committee. That was our 3 action items for the evening. They were significant action items. I look forward to having a quality development in our community that continues to add to the leisurettainment and sports facilities that we have in our community, partnering with the great state of Kansas. Moving on to item 4 is our fourth quarter 2021 cash investment. And with that, I believe we have Andrea Vineyard is here to present.
Yes, good evening. Andrea Vineyard, Deputy Treasurer. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I would like to also include, we have Becky Berger, new County Treasurer, attending as well. She started back in January, replacing Rick McKessick. And she is here as well if anyone does have any questions for her. Again, Chairman, thank you. I'm here to present the fourth quarter 2021 quarterly investment report. Average yield page here is at 0.57%. Days to maturity did go up quite a bit. I will explain in a future slide. Of that portfolio, we're sitting at 74% in cash. The rest is now invested at 26%. And then a few metrics. As we stated, the average yield was at 0.57, did go down a bit from Q3, which was at 0.55. Still meeting the average T-bill rate of 0.39. We are above that, as we always tend to be. Big issuance compliance still within the limits. We hit that goal for all 4 quarters of 2021, which some of you may know and most of you may not, was harder for us to handle in probably 2018, 19, and a little bit of 20. But I'm pleased to state that in 2021, we were right where we needed to be based on our policies. Sorry, 4-year-old. Next, where the portfolio actually sits. Of that 205 million, we are sitting at a 73 million in cash. That is CDs fully collateralized. That's a change. That's where some of those days of maturity. We did go out for bid and invest about 50 million in the end of 2021 in December. And then of the additional portfolio of the 279 million, we don't have any agencies at this time, so that would be 0. Showing what we actually did. Q4, we did 10 single investments of 5 million apiece. Commerce Bank was the winning bid on each of those based on bid process following procedure and policy related to our portfolio. And additionally, one of Capital Federal's investments did mature. Last but not least, I want to go through the UG fund category cash balances. Of our balances, 14% is in restricted bond documents such as capital projects. 38% in general fund, such as some of the combined funds reserve, meeting the liability for contingencies, budgetary needs, things like that, emergencies. 14% in the enterprise fund, and then 28% is for restrictions for state statute, and then last is 6% for the annual debt service payments that we make. That's all I have to present. Anyone have any questions? I'm open, or any comments, anything for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vineyard. Any questions or comments, Commission? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk if there are any comments received from the public.
There was no communication received from the public.
Thank you. I will state that is the 38% for reserves. We have really exceeded our reserve requirement in our budget. But I'm really pleased to see we're in compliance with everything that you put forward, Andrea. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, committee? Seeing none, this was for information only, committee, public. So with that, that takes us on to item 4, which is item 5, which is the Q4 2022 budget revisions. And so I believe we have Reginald Lindsay to present this evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Reginald Lindsay, Budget Manager. I am going to talk about budget revisions $10,000 or greater that was done in the Q4 of 2021. And give a little background, when departments request to shift funds greater than $10,000 or have money added to their budgets from contingencies, they have to move the request to the county administrator's office for a signature. If their request is over $50,000 and vital to operation, it also goes to Mayor's Garner office for approval. If the request is not vital, it comes to this standing committee for approval. And then if it's approved here, it then goes to the full commission. So in the Q4 of 2021, we had a total of 9 budget revisions that were done. All of them were done within the department. And when I say within the department, sometimes the department doesn't have the funding within their own budget. So we'll dip into contingencies to help fund whatever they need. So of those total 9 revisions, 5 of them were from the police department and 2 of them were from the sheriff's office or sheriff's department. And then 1 was from building logistics and 1 was from Parks and Rec. that's pretty much what I wanted to present to you all today regarding fourth quarter budget revisions for 2021.
Thank you, Reggie. I appreciate you bringing that forward. Are there any questions from the commission in reference to the excess $10,000 or excess? I don't see any hands from the commission. I see no hands from the public. Clerk, do we have anybody from the public wanting to speak?
No communication from the public.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Again, Reginald, thank you for the presentation. That was for information only for the commission. That takes us to item 6, our final item of the evening, and that's the fourth quarter budget versus actuals. And tonight we have Debbie Johnson, Deputy Chief Financial Officer, and Reggie Lindsay, Budget Manager, both here to present. So please.
Thank you, Commissioner. Debbie Johnson, Deputy Chief Financial Officer. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see that? The presentation? Okay. As I said, this is the 2021 quarter 4 budget to actual financial report. I'm going to start out talking about the revenues, and then I will let Reginald Lindsay, our budget director, present the expenditure side. So we're going to start out with the consolidated general fund. And I will just note that the general fund is the primary operating account for the unified government, and it accounts for the majority of the operating activities. The consolidated general fund contains information for 3 general funds. That's the city general fund, the county general fund, and the Parks and Recreation general fund. So this first table here is showing a comparison of the fourth quarter year-to-date totals for revenues and expenditures and fund balance for 2020 compared with 2021. So I'll just note, starting out with the revenues, you will see that in 2020, revenues, actual revenues collected exceeded the budget amount. The total collected was 103.3% of budget. Expenditures, the amount spent compared with budget was 94.3%. And then I'll move over to the fiscal year 2021 fourth quarter year to date. For revenues, we are at 99.5% of budget, and expenditures are at 95.9% of budget. I'll just note that when we budgeted for 2021 in the amended budget, the net change that we were expecting or projecting was $10.4 million, which would increase our fund balance to $41.4 million. For the actuals, our net change was actually $15.7 million, bringing our year-to-date fund balance to $46.7 million. These next 2 slides, I'm just going to talk about detail for revenues for the city and county general fund. The next several slides. So we're going to start out talking about the city general fund. This first table here is the budget to actual for 2021. You can see the amended budget for 2021 revenues. We had a total of $166.8 million. The actual revenue collected through the fourth quarter was $163.8 million, meaning that we collected 98.2% of all of our revenues budgeted. I'll just note that property tax, which accounts for 16% of the revenue in the city general fund, was collected at 100.3%, so just over the amount that was projected. Sales tax, which accounts for 29% of the city general fund revenue, we collected 102.6%. Other taxes, which include motor vehicle taxes, franchise tax, the BPU pilot accounts for 30% of the revenues, and we collected 99.3%. Permits and licenses, we were at 115%. Intergovernmental revenues, which includes grants, which would include the ARPA revenue replacement and FEMA reimbursements, we're at 81.5%. charges for service, let's see, which includes fees that we collect for, as well as the largest charges for service is the trash and residential trash and recycling fee, which accounts for about 8.6 million of that total. And we were at 94.8%. Fines and fees are at 91.5%. And then miscellaneous and transfers in were at 102.6%. This next graph, the table over here, just shows a comparison of the percent of budget collected for the fourth quarter 2020 and fourth quarter 2021. The blue column shows the prior period, which would be 2020, and the red shows the current period, 2021. This next table for the City General Fund just shows a comparison of the fourth quarter year-to-date actuals for 2020 and 2021. It's showing the same information that we provided on the previous slide, but it just shows the comparison year-to-date 2020 and 2021. So in 2020, we collected a total of 145.4 million for the City General Fund, and in 2021, we collected 163.8 million for a difference of 18.4 million. And this last column shows where the increases and decreases were. So as you can see, property and sales tax are both above the prior year, as well as the intergovernmental revenue, which is this is where the ARPA revenue is shown for the revenue loss, revenue replacement funds that are included. And this is just for the City General Fund.
Debbie, if I may I ask about the miscellaneous transfers in, because that is basically a $5 million difference. Can we talk about what those are?
Let's see. I know that this is the difference, it would be if we may have had some additional transfers in 2020. I'm not recalling anything specific. I just know that, this is just showing that we did not, I believe we didn't transfer as much. Let me look at the total. I don't know what was included in 2020. I might have to go back and pull up what was included in all the transfers. I'm not, but I know the 6,294,000 is fairly close to the budgeted amount for 2021. Kathleen, I see Kathleen has her hand up. She may be able to comment on what that transfer was.
Great. Kathleen, can you shed a little light on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember offhand specifically what the 11.9 million in 2020 was comprised of, but I do know that due to the pandemic, there were, in order to balance the budget in 2020, there were a number of transfers that occurred between funds in order to, continue operations. And those were all, of course, approved by the commission. There was also, the miscellaneous also includes a $2 million revenue that came in as a result of selling property related to the Amazon project. I'm forgetting the name of it now. Where is it? North of Parallel. I'm forgetting the name of the
Woodlands.
Yeah, the Woodlands. That's it. Yeah. So I know that was 2 million of it. So each year transfers vary quite a bit from year to year. So that's why you see the year to year comparison being so different.
Great. Thank you. The purpose of that question was to ensure that the public knows that we didn't lose money. We just didn't have the money to transfer into the account. So please continue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. I'll continue on. These next two slides will be for the County General Fund. Here we're showing the 2021 budget to actuals for the county. The total 2021 amended revenue budget was 75.2 million. And the total revenue collected was 76.8 million. Thereby, we collected 102.2% of the total revenue budgeted. Just note that property tax, once again, at 100, just slightly over 100%. And I will just note in the county general fund, property tax accounts for almost 60% of the total budget. Sales tax accounts for 10%, and we collected 104.2% there. Other taxes, which include motor vehicle taxes and delinquent, accounts for about 12%, and we were at 102.6% there. Permits and licenses at 90.9%. Intergovernmental revenues, 99.8%. Charges for service, 113.9%. And that the largest charge for service there is the jail fee on the county side. Fines and fees at 106%. That includes penalties, auto license fees, and district court fees. And then miscellaneous at 119.8%. The graph is just showing, once again, the comparison. It's a percent of budget. It's a percent of the revenue collected compared to budget. So it shows the prior year and the current year. And then the final slide for the county general fund revenues. This shows the year-to-date comparison of 2020 with 2021. So in 2020, the total revenues collected for the county general fund at $63.5 million. In 2021, we collected $76.8 million, that being a difference of $13.3 million. And here you can see the where those increases were. And I will just note on the intergovernmental revenues, this is once again where the ARPA revenue is shown in the budget. And that's all I have for revenues, if there's any questions.
Thank you. Not a question, but the intergovernmental revenues, even though with the ARPA funding going in, that still is only 6 million of the 13.320 that we brought in. So these budget numbers are very promising in light of what we went through. So thank you.
That's correct. Yeah. About another 5% was between the other tax revenue.
Yeah.
5 million.
Yeah, we have been somewhat conservative on our sales tax and use tax. And I think it's evident when we see these numbers, especially the other tax, when we see the growth in it, as well as the property tax. We see almost a 3 million increase in property tax, and we see overall a 13 million increase in total revenues. So in the county side, so I think that's promising. We will be ready to address this within the budget process. And if I may, colleagues, I would just state that as we move forward, Debbie or Kathleen, either one of you, is there a reason why we wait until after the first quarter of the year to get our fourth quarter actuals?
Well, yes, there is. So this is Kathleen Financial, the Chief Financial Officer. And so we like to provide as accurate information as possible. So certainly the revenues, the revenues they come in and we know for the most part what they are fairly soon, early on. It takes about a month or two for us to book all of the transactions into our financial system. It actually takes about 6 weeks to do that. So there's always a lag, and that's because of, frankly, our financial system and business processes are a little, time intensive and kind of done by hand. And so, but with the Workday ERP financial system that we're currently installing, we are going to be automating a lot of these processes so that they'll be much more streamlined. And we're anticipating with the implementation of this new financial system, which is planned for October of this year, we'll be able to provide financial information much sooner. But the current processes that we have in place make it are just very time intensive. And so that's why it takes a while for us to get all the data properly entered into our financial system and reviewed and approved. So that's why.
Thank you, Kathleen. I just know as we approach the budget meetings that we have. It'd been nice to have this information so we as commissioners can start looking at the budget. And I know it may take not more than 2 months, but here we are halfway into April, or beginning first week of April, and we're just now getting fourth quarter actuals. And it would be nice if I look forward to having a new program to get these numbers out more rapidly, especially before we start the budget process. So thank you. Any comments from the commission? Seeing none. Any of the attendees have any comments or questions? I see Reverend Adri Showalter Matlock. You have 3 minutes to make your comments, and please, if so, come to the microphone and state your name and city of residency for the record.
Thank you. My name is Reverend Adri Showalter Matlock. I reside in Kansas City, Kansas. And I just had a question of clarification for Ms. Josher. You mentioned that the largest portion of revenue from the charges for service come from the jail. Can you expand on what you meant by that? What does that mean?
Sure, that's the fee it's a fee that's collected by the county for jail services. It's a payment from the city to the county.
Okay, so the city of Kansas City, Kansas pays the county for operating the jail.
Yeah, Bonner Springs and Edwardsville also pay it too. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And if I remember correctly, the sheriff operates the jail, which comes out of the county budget, not the city budget.
That's correct.
Okay. So with that, I misspoke earlier. I do have again, this was from information only. I do have one more item that is for information only. And my apologies.
Well, actually, we got to give Reggie a chance because he has to do his expenditure side. Sorry.
We only did the revenue side, so I'll turn it over to Reginald Lindsay, our budget director.
Thank you, ladies.
Hello again, everyone. So the current slide looks at the city general fund expenditures. And so there's two views here. We have two different charts. Up at the upper left-hand corner, we have the city general fund expenditures, looking at fourth quarter as it compares to the amended budget. And then the bottom left-hand corner, we have year-over-year review for the 2020 fourth quarter year-to-date actuals, and then also the 2021 fourth quarter year-to-date actuals. And so what we're looking at in these two charts are 6 expenditure categories for the fourth quarter. And the key thing that we're looking for in the top chart is we want to make sure that the expenses came in less than 100%. And so as we look at personnel, personnel is made up of salaries and pensions and benefits and overtime within the organization. And we can see we're right at around 100%. And then we have services, and that includes transit services that are provided, and then also the trash contract, and then software and legal fees. And then we have supplies, which includes utilities such as natural gas, and then also fuel for the organization, and then also vehicle parts. And then we can also see where we had miscellaneous transfers in and out, and which that was over budget. It came in at 225%. And what went on there is projects that were not completed, that were cash, they were transferred to the next year so that we can use those. But overall, we can see total we spent $157 million, and we had $159 million. So we spent $2 million less than we were planned. So we had about 1% of the budget left. And if we go down to the bottom chart, and the thing where the theme is where we're comparing 2020 versus the 2021 actuals, we can see in the 6 categories, we see personnel. We're up about 9% from last year. And then in services, we're up about 44%. And the supplies, we were down 12%. And then grants and claims, we're down 9%. miscellaneous transfers and out, we're down 14%. In capital outlay, we're up 24% over the prior year. And looking at the total budget or total expenses that were spent, in 2020, we spent 139 million. In 2021, we spent 157 million. And that was $17 million more, which was a 13% increase. So on the next slide, we're looking at the county general fund, and we still have the same two views where top graph, the theme is we're looking at what was spent compared to the budget for 2021. And we can see again, we have personnel, services, supplies, grants and claims, and miscellaneous transfers out, and capital outlay. And personnel, again, is the same as in the city, where salaries and pensions and overtime benefits are paid from there. And then we have services on the county side, services that are provided a little bit different. There's no transit contract or anything like that. One of the biggest fees over on the county side is inmate medical and inmate farm out, which comes from the sheriff's department. But overall, we're looking at county general fund. We had a $72 million budget and we spent $68 million. So we spent 94% of that budget. And we have 6% left, which equates to about $4.3 million. And we look at the bottom left chart. Here again, we're looking at 2020 versus 2021 actuals. And we can see personnel, we spent 7% more. Services, we spent 4% more. And the supplies, we spent 31% more. And grants and claims, we spent 23% less rather. And then miscellaneous transfers out was 59% less. And then capital outlay, we spent 53% more. And so overall, the budget was only 1% more from 2020 to 2021. And we spent $840,000 more. So in the next chart, got a view of our 8 other tax levy funds. And this here we're switching where we're looking at revenues and expenditures. We have revenue on the left-hand side of the page and expenditures on the right-hand side of the page. And key thing we're looking for is it's always good when revenues are over 100%, and it's always good when expenditures are less than 100%. So looking through, we kind of see where we kind of hovered around 100% in revenues on most of the funds, and then expenditures, all of them were less than 100%. The next slide kind of looks outside our tax levy funds. This slide is a snapshot of our 19 other funds, which consists of special revenue funds and also our enterprise funds. But it also does include county library fund, which is a non-UG tax levy fund that the UG does not control spending on. So key thing here again is on the revenue side, which is on the left side of the page, we're looking to be around 100%. And then on the right side of the page, which are expenditures, we're looking to be below 100%. And looking at the revenues, we had 12 funds that collected more than they were forecasted. Then we had 6 funds that did not meet the revenue forecast. And out of those 6 funds, like 3 of them just didn't meet by like 1%, which is a great thing still. And then over on the revenue or the expenditure side, we did have a fund that did go over the budget that we have, and that was a clerk technology fund. Spent 127% of its budget, but this fund is allowed to spend up to what its fund balance is. And it had a fund balance of $149,000, and it went $23,000 over its budget. And that completes my portion of the presentation.
Thank you, Reggie. Appreciate the overview. Those last mill levies that generated the monies for those programs, was extremely important. I think in the past, we've seen those numbers really bounce around, be high and then low. And now we have more stability in those, but we still picked up 6 basis points. I really appreciate the overview. Committee, any questions, any comments? Seeing none. Any of the attendees? Seeing none. Again, this was for information only committee. And as I stated earlier, I owe an apology to our members from the MARC board who are here to present. I will turn the matter over to the board members. So at this time, I don't know who we have speaking, but maybe someone can guide me as to who will be speaking on behalf of the MARC board.
Good evening. I'm Marlene Nagel, and I'm Community Development Director for Mid-America Regional Council. And thank you for the opportunity. We know you've had a long meeting, so we will be brief, but we wanted to share some information about a program that we started last year to serve Wyandotte County and some of the results we're having. And just want to introduce our team partners and make you aware of it. Let me share with you my screen. We have 6 key partners with this program. We were successful in early 2021 in receiving a grant from the Economic Development Administration. Right after the pandemic really hit the community hard in March of 2020, we began conversations with the Wyandotte Economic Development Council, Workforce Partnership, and others in your community about some of the needs related to workforce and small business. And with that, we were able to secure funds to address helping individuals who were unemployed or had dropped out of the labor force altogether or were in part-time employment situations with some career coaching and support, job training, employment search services. We had the support of the Burroughs Foundation and some new tools that they were rolling out to help job seekers look at potential careers. With the University of Missouri, Kansas City's Casey SourceLink and their small business efforts, and 2 organizations in Wyandotte County, the Toolbox and Entrepreneurial Business Basics, we were able to offer some additional support and services to small businesses and those wishing to start small businesses in your county. And then we've worked with the Wyandotte County EDC and your government staff and others to promote the programs and services. We were trying to address 3 key needs. One, to help those re-enter the workforce or to be able to move from lower wage jobs to higher wage earnings, and then to support disadvantaged businesses and individuals to grow their businesses within Wyandotte County. Keely Snyder, who's the Executive Director of Workforce Partnership, couldn't be with us this evening, but she wanted me to share some of the work that they are doing. They are the Public Workforce Investment Board for Wyandotte County. And this grant program is allowing them to serve moderate income individuals who perhaps wouldn't otherwise qualify for their services through their support and working with our career coaches at Mid-America Regional Council. And Cedric Dedman of our staff is on the call this evening. We help adults in your community who want to explore careers, help them understand the skill requirements that businesses are looking for, what training programs might help them achieve those skills so that they can then move on to employment. We also work closely with community organizations to help clients who oftentimes have barriers and have a hard time in addressing things like transportation, childcare, or other needs in order to be able to get into training and employment. I think Jonathan Salazar is on the call and was going to speak a little bit to the work that the Wyandotte EDC is doing. Jonathan, are you?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Marlene. And Again, my name is Jonathan Salazar, and I'm the Business Retention and Expansion Manager with Wyandotte Economic Development Council. My role with the EDC is to meet with companies and to provide resources and assistance on the local and state and federal level. We've met with about 60 companies year to date. Can you guys hear me?
Or no?
Let me go get over. You're gonna start.
I'm gonna start cooking, yes.
Somebody
Doesn't need this back.
somebody needs to mute.
Hearing a
Thank
little bit of.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
so,
Jonathan.
it's okay. We've met with about 60 companies year to date, and the majority of those being small businesses. And of course, we have an objective for our small businesses to increase the opportunity for those small businesses to be awarded Wyandotte County projects. And on this slide in particular, here's a few items that we've been working on to engage public agencies and large developments to financially commit to utilize local minority and women-owned businesses. We are working to develop a more robust distribution list and an online listing of Wyandotte County-based local minority and women-owned businesses. And we will cross-market programs, resources, and services targeting Wyandotte County small businesses and entrepreneurs. We have launched the Empower WYCO Loan Fund with Network Kansas and other partners, which is a 4% 4-year loan up to $15,000 there. And we will continue to develop and moderate a series of small business webinars and networking events. And lastly, we'll continue to make BRE visits to small businesses, focus on manufacturing and contractor services. So we will continue to collaborate with a number of local organizations that are going to present here on this call and state organizations. But I believe my time is up. And so I believe Gabe Munoz with the Toolbox will be next. So the floor is yours, Gabe.
Hi, and thank you all for allowing us to be here today. Today, I'm just going to kind of discuss the work that we have been doing. So I am executive director and founder of the Toolbox Small Business Resource Center. So this organization was created through the help and assistance of a cross-sector group of community leaders, local entrepreneurs, and other community organizations to help address the needs and gaps that we have found here in Wyandotte specifically. And so the Toolbox is a one-stop shop resource for everything small business in Wyandotte County. So all of the services that we offer are free at no cost to any business here in Wyandotte County. We provide all types of support around business, creating a business plan, registering the business, so navigating the whole maze of licenses from at the county, state, and federal levels, assistance with assisting small businesses finding funding to get their business going, helping to grow their operations, and find out and learn about more MBE, minority women certifications and contract opportunities for businesses here in Wyandotte County. So we kind of take that intimidating checklist of starting a business and help break it down and make it easier for people to be able to get into regulation and into protocol to help them get their business up off the ground. So it can be a really intimidating process and very confusing. So we want to make sure that people are following those proper steps. We provide our services in not just in English, but we also provide them in Spanish, and then have funds to be able to provide interpreting services for all the services that we do provide. So we've done workshops and trainings in English, Spanish, Burmese, Nepali, and Swahili as well. So of the work that we've done, we've just started here in June. And so since that time frame, we've been able to work with 117 entrepreneurs here in Wyandotte County, providing over 480 hours of consultation to small businesses. So we've held 25 different events, drawing over 200 attendees to those events. Those business trainings and classes that we're doing. So workshops around accounting, taxes, marketing, social media, really to help bring up the skill sets of these entrepreneurs. We've also hosted 2 different Spanish cohorts. That it's a 5-week program where we take an individual and over the class, it's a class of 10 to 15 individuals, teach them how to build a business plan over the course of 5 weeks, then add an additional 3 weeks of one-on-one consultations to the individual. So we've had 23 graduates come out of that program so far. We've also assisted 28 small businesses who were unaware of the Paycheck Protection Program with applying for PPP. And they've received so far a total of over $240,000 in funding. Had they not been made aware of, they would have been able to miss out, or worse, they may have closed. So been able to assist them. At least a third of the services that we've provided have been in a language other than English. 60% of the clients that we serve have been female entrepreneurs, and 87% have been entrepreneurs of color. And so we're really trying to help fill that gap that's been missing so long here in Wyandotte County. Been very helpful to the support from the Unified Government, as well as Mark and the Ewing, Marion Kaufman Foundation for their funding and support. So at this point, I will toss it over to Kira.
Thank you so much, Gabe. My name is Kira Cherie. I am the founder and owner of EBB, Entrepreneur Business Basics. I do want to thank Mark for the opportunity, Marlene and Beth and everyone over there, really just to serve the minority entrepreneurs in Wyandotte County. I want to thank the commissioners for taking time out to hear what we're doing in our county. What we do is we provide one-on-one technical assistance. We've done lots of cohorts over the course of 8 years in Wyandotte County and really abroad. And COVID helped us to kind of get outside of the box. And what we do is we take them in 12 weeks. We want entrepreneurs who are minorities. That's our focus. So brown and Black minorities. And we take them in, help them to really see if their idea is feasible. So we want them to go from an ideation all the way to launch. We also talk to them about building personal credit, business credit, branding. So there's a lot of interpersonal skills, entrepreneurial mindset. We are also getting our curriculum inside of some public high schools here in Wyandotte County. And so we're really excited about the opportunity to serve. We will graduate our 15th cohort here on the end of April. And we have served close to 350 entrepreneurs in our 8-year existence. And so we're just a small piece in the ecosystem, but we are very, very happy to be a part of it. So thank you all for what you guys do, and certainly keep minority entrepreneurs at the top of your mind when you all are thinking about funding. This grant has been a tremendous help, being able to provide the technical assistance. Taking that barrier out for entrepreneurs has been so impactful. So as you all are planning and budgeting and thinking about the future of our county, all of the businesses in Wyandotte County from 6th Street almost up to 435, they're small businesses, and many of them are minority. So think about really kind of getting that funding to the groups that are serving that community. It's very important. So thank you so much. And I think I'm passing it to Carmen, I believe.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Carmen with the UMKC Innovation Center, and I'm very happy to share about the Scale Up Kansas City program that is part of this coalition and initiative. Over the course of 4 months, Scale Up Kansas City program equips participants, the scalers, with the confidence, connections, and community for focusing and energizing their business towards the position to scale. And what does that result in is immeasurable economic impact and job growth for our community, all while making lifelong friendships within their peer cohort, their community, and an alumni network of 175 business owners. It's because these scalers have made a significant commitment to this program, dedicating every Thursday for 4 months to show up and to take their business to these new heights within a specialized curriculum, peer roundtables, and intensive one-on-one business coaching that they receive outside the classroom for up to 2 to 4 hours each week. The cohort 12, which is the current cohort that is part of this program, is working on their presentation slide. They are finishing and sharpening their pencils on their financial projections And they will deliver their presentation publicly and then move right into celebrating their graduation on May 5th. And all of them are at the crunch time, looking forward to that. So again, thank you to Wyandotte County, to Mark, to this program and the funders. And yes, I echo Kira. I hope we can sustain and continue to work towards economic improvement and milestones for these small businesses. Thank you.
Thanks, Carmen. So one of the things that we recognize in looking at the Kansas City area economy at Mid-America Regional Council is how vital small businesses are to economic growth throughout the county, throughout Wyandotte County and throughout the region. And so these three organizations play an important role in bringing training and technical support for those small businesses in the county, working closely with the Wyandotte Economic Development Council. We've been working hard to better understand the minority and women-owned businesses within the county to promote both the small business services as well as the career coaching and job training and employment services. And we're hopeful that this will have a lasting impact. I will mention regarding our program with Workforce Partnership, we are reaching out and working with Goodwill Industries, and they will be bringing their mobile van into Wyandotte County at selected neighborhood locations. They have the ability to train up to 10 individuals at a time in computer literacy skills, and we're hoping to add that as a new part of the program. And finally, Kira mentioned the importance of funding. I think Gabe and Carmen did as well. This grant runs through early 2023, but we see that the needs are not going to be fully met. And so providing ongoing support to continue to build and strengthen the county's labor force to take advantage of the many jobs that are within your county, strengthening support for minority and women-owned businesses is really essential. And part of that is encouraging public institutions and large private businesses in your county to use the smaller firms for goods and services. And with that, we'd be happy to answer questions.
Commissioners, any questions? Any comments? I don't see any attendees. I don't see any. I would just like to say thank you to Gabe Munoz of the Toolbox Small Business, Jonathan Salazar with Wyandotte County Economic Development, Marlene Nagel with Mark, Carmen DeHart, UMKC Scale Up, and Kira Cherie at EBB for your presentation this evening. And thank you for investing in our community. We appreciate your partnership tremendously.
Thank you very much for the time.
Committee, that concludes our meeting for the evening. Thank you for your attendance. We are adjourned. We will now move on to the Neighborhood and Community Development Committee in about 1 minute. So those, if you want to take a break for a few minutes, let's do 5 minutes. We'll come back at 6:50. We'll come right back at 2 minutes till 7. Okay, committee, if we're ready, we'll go ahead and get started. But before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, some committee members, staff, and public are attending remotely via Zoom, as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so that the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is the current guidelines from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. The public also will have an opportunity to provide brief comments from the lobby at the municipal office building. I will now call the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee to order. I would ask that the clerk please call roll.
Roll call. Stites,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Townsend,
Here.
and Burroughs.
Aye, here. And
And
so, go ahead, sorry.
We do have communication that McKiernan is absent.
Yes, thank you. Is Commissioner Ramirez joining us for this?
Yes, I am, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just wanted to ensure. Thank you. Welcome. And I don't know if Senator Haley or BPU Board Member Haley is with us still. Okay, moving on. We have, I believe, 2 items this evening, but I'm a little confused. I don't have my agenda for tonight's meeting, but I know that the number 1 item up is a proposal for the adoption of the 2018 suite of codes and amendments to the building and building regulations, chapter 15, fire prevention and protection, submitted by Greg Talkin. And he is the director of our Neighborhood Resource Center. So Greg, if you're with us, please, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. Greg Talkin, Director, Neighborhood Resource Center of the Unified Government. Coming back before you this evening again to try to bring forward and push forward with the adoption of new building and fire and property maintenance standards. So I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully everybody can see that. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, I'm sorry, Greg. Yes, we can.
Okay.
Excuse me 1 moment. Commissioner Burroughs, we do need to approve the minutes first.
I apologize. Thank you for keeping me on track. As I stated, I don't have my agenda before me this evening. So what month were those minutes from?
They were from November 29th.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from November 29th.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Townsend, District 1. Move to approve those minutes as submitted.
Davis, District 8, second.
Thank you, Commissioners. There's been a motion and a second. I'd ask for roll call, please.
Roll call. Stites,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Ramirez, okay. Burroughs.
Aye. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Appreciate the guidance. Now on to item 1, Mr. Talkin.
All right, thank you. Once again, Greg Talkin, Director, Neighborhood Resource Center. So I've got my presentation up before you. Just to kind of to backtrack a little bit and refresh the memory, the exact codes we're proposing to adopt are the 2018 International Building Code, Residential Code, the Existing Buildings Code, the Mechanical Code, Energy Conservation Code, Plumbing Code, National Electric Code, the Property Maintenance Code, and the Fire Code, and the Life Safety Code. Out of all of those standards, we've only had one area of the International Residential Code that has been questioned, and there's been a lot of discussion about that. And so tonight we'll talk a little bit more about that and moving forward. So from the meeting back on March 7th, these are the items kind of taken from that meeting in an effort to try to address questions by the governing body and participants. The original proposal from staff was an effort to be in line with the majority of the metropolitan jurisdictions that have adopted the 2018 standard. There were concerns that the proposed amendments weaken the energy provisions, in turn would result in higher energy costs for new owners versus less restrictive energy requirements, providing the benefit of a lower cost of the home purchase. Also, there was a question, there was no other option other than what staff was proposing for the commission to consider outside of our recommendation, staff's recommendation. Also, Commissioner Burroughs, you had requested during the agenda review if there was a way to provide some data of a specific size house, the impact of our proposal. And so in the meeting tonight, I'll provide 3 different options for the governing body or for the standing committee's consideration. And I did reach out to the Home Builders Association and Metro Energy, who are 2 of the participants in this, kind of one on one side and one on the other as far as between efficiency versus cost, and ask for information from them on cost. So I'll present that later in this presentation, and between the presentations and that information that's provided, cost for the actual cost probably lies somewhere in between the numbers that are provided. I believe there was additional information from those groups' actual memos. I only took a small portion of that information they provided to me to answer that specific question, but that information that was in addition to that was provided in the packets, I believe, from for the commissioners to review. So option A, that's option A is now what we originally were proposing last time we met. Basically, it amends the ability or amends the insulation in wood frame walls to R13, which in the 2018 standard, or in the 2018 standard, it's actually R13 plus 5 or R20, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. And then amended the building leakage rate to 5 air changes per hour for our climate zone. And there's been a question around blower door testing. Testing is required. So we're not deleting that requirement. We also amended out the requirement for rooms containing fuel burning appliances or sealing them off. And then we were deleting a section in the energy provisions that basically didn't allow you to use the wood frame cavities for return air plenums, but we do require those to be sealed. So we amended that section, sorry. And then the ERA, the Energy Rating Index, we amended to 80 for this option. So an option B for staff is kind of a midpoint, middle option that we're proposing. And that basically is, instead of option A where it was R13, moving to R15. There is an insulation R15 value fiberglass batted insulation that's in the market now that would allow 2 more points in the efficiency and still allows you to build with 2x4 walls. Don't have to do any type of major, go into 2x6 wall cavities and extending your frames for your windows, or adding the R5 on the outside foam, which is an added cost. And the only other change in this was amending the energy rating index to 75. Now, both of these items, the R15 and the ERA of 75, are, there was one or two, I think there was 1 or 2 jurisdictions in that chart, which I'll show later, that had done this also. So option C basically is no amendments, energy code and IRC portions of the energy code as written, no amendments. So this is similar to the chart I'd provided in the past. I do have to thank Commissioner McKiernan. Actually, he beat me to the punch in a conversation we had in his effort to understand. So I did not reinvent the wheel. He kind of went in, and you can see, kind of explained a little bit more whether U factor is lower when it's lower is better, and R factor when it's higher is better. So, but he also kind of did some comparison across the metro about, who meets the 2018, who doesn't meet the 2018, doesn't meet 2018, but close to the majority of the metro, some of the outliers, and doesn't meet 2018, but close to others in the metro area. once again, our whole effort originally was to try to be mainstream and match what other cities have done. So first, let me talk about the outliers, which is where we got the R15 for option B, and that's Prairie Village. They are the only ones that did that adoption. Everybody else still has an R13 option. And then Kansas City, Missouri did the 75 in their ERI, which they're actually the 2012 standard in the energy code, but still they were kind of midstream, a little bit lower than we were proposing. So option B, that's where we got the two proposals. I do want to address these outliers that is in Overland Park because they are extreme on a few things, but yet quite a bit lower on others. In Overland Park actually gave two options. You have the option of following prescriptive method with as wrote in the code, or this item that I've got in here. And I would just note that everybody that's on this chart right now has the option of a 2x4 wall without having to put an R5 type overlaid siding or foam on the outside. The only, like I said, R15 in Prairie Village still allows you to get the material where you don't have to go to an extensive measures for that. So once again, reached out to Kansas City Home Builders Association and as well as Metro Energy to ask them for some specific information related to costs associated with each one of these items. The HBA provided the information I'm going to share right here. To try to explain this chart, there is a second slide. I couldn't fit it all on one slide, but the option A we discussed is in this column right here. Option B is here and option C. And then over here is where we have the actual amendments or the changes that we're proposing that I just explained. So as you can see, at least here for option A, the only additional cost from what we're currently enforcing on this portion is the testing, blower door testing, and plus fee cost for a ventilation fan. Option B has, and for the wood framing, because of the added insulation, they're proposing $1,600 for the additional cost, and once again $675 for the blower door test and air exchanger, and then no additional cost on because we're not requiring the room separating appliances. Option C, where we're adding R13 plus 5, basically you're still allowed to do a 2x4 wall, but you have to add an R5 foam insulation or an R5 siding to the outside. That adds about $5,000. What information I received back was 4 to 6. I took the midpoint. Option C, basically the cost for that is about $3,100, $600 for a blower door test, and there's an air exchanger required. And then on fuel board, and then on the fuel boarding appliances requiring the separated room, that's an additional $2,500 adder. So in addition to that, the other items that come into play, option A and B on this, using the building cavities is allowed for return air, so there's no additional cost. But if you're not allowed to and you have to actually use sheet metal, you're talking about a $750 adder. Then we have the ERI, which originally proposed 80, no additional cost because that's currently what we're doing. And then if you go to an ERI of 75, which is proposed in our option B, it's about a $4,500 adder. And then option C is the same, a $4,500 adder because of the additional equipment that has to be used, according to HBA. So then, of course, on the builder side, we did receive that there's some overhead and profit that's added to those, adding to the total cost. So at the bottom, total items estimated cost to consumer to meet energy code adoption for option A is an additional $900. Option B is an additional approximate $9,000. And option C, I was given a range from $16,000 to $20,000 on, once again, the information received here. I did receive a second bit of information from HBA, but this information was collected back in 2019, prior to the increased inflation. So this is not adjusted for inflation since the 2019 data, which we all know that materials in the construction industry and labor cost, but primarily I think materials has increased significantly, where it's almost doubled in some areas. So you would have to kind of realize that this number at the bottom, the 11,540, is probably quite a bit higher. And this calculation is for a 24 plus 100 square foot home, 2-story. And I have to, going back to the previous slide, I need to mention that was for a 1,500 to 1,600 square foot house on those costs provided. So if you were to double this information, it's close to the same cost, even though it's a little bit bigger house. I don't know if doubling is what you should do, but I know materials have pretty much doubled since 2019. I'm not sure about labor. So Metro Energy, this is the information piece they provided to me to answer the question about the cost of meeting the new standards. Now, what they provided is a cost going from what we're currently under, the 2009 up to the 2018. Is that area that's circled? I believe what they're getting at, that the estimated incremental cost to meet those codes is $4,013. So somewhere between the information provided between HBA and the Metropolitan Energy, we know the real costs probably lie in there. I don't know exactly what is included in the Metropolitan Energy. It wasn't necessarily broke down. It did have a footnote. I tried to follow those footnote links and that was provided in the document, but it didn't connect. So they did provide me some other information in an email that I didn't realize until actually before this meeting that I didn't see, but I don't think it had provided the links either. So I want to touch on the pros and cons again one more time. That was an issue that I was asked to provide last time, but very simply, lower energy efficiency requirements equals a lower cost to the consumer for the purchase price for the initial purchase, and most likely and would result in a higher utility bills. Higher energy efficiency requirements, higher consumer price purchase price, and lower utility bills. So I want to clarify a little bit on this. I had this in the last one, but I heard some comments from some of the individuals that spoke last time. And I heard that they said that if we adopt what option A here, that we're going to fall behind because everybody else is going to adopt the 2021 is what I heard. I will tell you that only one that's adopted the 2021 so far is Gladstone, Missouri. Some things I've learned about Gladstone is they amended that code basically back to the 2009. And also I understand that they do very few, if any, single family homes in their community. The only other ones that were considering the 2021 were Kansas City, Missouri and Prairie Village, but I've received no word that those are moving forward. In talking to all the other jurisdictions that are on here, none of them are planning on moving to the 2021 period. They're waiting for the 2024, which we will also do. So we really won't fall behind. We are behind this code adoption period on the 2018 by about 16 to 18 months, but we'll come out of the chute at the same time and hopefully don't suffer a pandemic again somewhere in there that unfortunately slowed us down a little bit. So some rapid comments real quick. All the options provide additional efficiencies over what we currently have adopted. Even the option A provides some efficiencies. And we did cover the cost requested by Commissioner Burroughs. I hope that helps. Like I said, that information was received from third parties. We reached out to both the KCHBA and Metro Energy. And then the other concern was providing options for the standing committee governing body to consider, which I believe staff has now done. So I'm going to kind of close I have one more slide, but I would actually prefer if the governing body or the standing committee takes action on this and does approve it, I would like a section just to touch on the last slide, and that's how we would move forward with timing for the new codes and standards that you so choose. So I'll open up for questions.
Greg, thank you. And I appreciate you going out and getting those numbers. I think it's important for commissioners to see the difference of cost and options. The more energy efficient we become, the added cost it puts into a home. But those are static costs versus not having an idea of what energy costs may be moving forward. So I believe that's a benefit to us. At this time, I would ask, is there any commissioners that have any questions? And I do see Lavert Murray. Lavert, you're muted.
I'm sorry, Commissioner. I was saying that I see Commissioner Townsend and Commissioner Ramirez, and I would yield to them and come back after them. Commissioner Burroughs, if that's okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Lavert. We'll go to, and I apologize, members. I don't know who had their hand up first, but the only hand I see up right now is Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Commissioner Burroughs. Commissioner Townsend had her hand up first, so she can go first.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you. Commissioner Townsend, District 1. Chivalry is not dead. Greetings, Commissioner Ramirez. This is, I just had a couple of questions for Mr. Talkin. If you go back to the early slides where you first presented the A and the B option, you answered the questions that I had originally about how we would compare Wyandotte County to other nearby municipalities in terms of adopting or not this, adopting the 2018 version, and concerns I had several months ago about where that put us with other communities, and therefore, the most part, still with these 2018 codes. So my initial question, my real question goes to, I think there's another slide where you presented, I think side by side, the A, the B option, and there was a recommendation, I think preceding that. One of the slides said that this was the recommendation by staff. I think it was early on.
This is option A. This is
okay. Yeah. And you showed the side by side. Just tell me, why is it that option A is staff's recommendation over the other two? Just simply, that was my question.
It puts us in line with the majority of the other metro cities, what they've adopted. That makes enforcement much easier. It makes us not stick out. Yeah, it means that we won't have the energy efficiency of adopting the full standard, but nobody's adopted the full standard so far in our area. So we kind of feel like it's critical to stay kind of in line with what other jurisdictions are, because what you would find is that we would have other builders come in here and find out that they have the more stringent, and sometimes the builders don't talk to the developers, builders don't talk to their contractors, and contractors go out and start building like they do everywhere else. And then they get called on the deficiencies. And so it's much easier to enforce. It's much easier to educate if we can stay similar. And once again, we are making improvements in what we're requiring, although it's baby steps, not taking a drastic jump across the Grand Canyon.
Okay. Would it be fair to say, in comparing these options, that option A would make the initial cost of home buying more beneficial, a lower cost to residents than, say, B in the other option? Of course, where utilities may be higher, but you can somewhat control that by what you use, but is my understanding was that the A would be less costly in terms of acquisition, but maybe slightly higher in utilities. Is that pretty much it?
Correct. And I've got up there, this is kind of the construction cost that I've been provided, estimated when it comes to the options by Kansas City Home Builders Association. For option A, there's a slight increase of $900, which is basically the blower door test that still is required. And whoops, sorry about that. Yeah, so it's, and then a little bit of overhead.
Thank you. Those were the questions I had for right now. Thank you.
Okay, next one up was, I believe, Commissioner Ramirez.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Burroughs. At the moment, I am, because I know that the MEC Metro Energy Center, I believe, is wanting option C. Staff is wanting option A, and now we've created option D. And then I will say, I have not been part of this conversation. This is my first time. I've viewed the videos, the past videos, so I just want to make that known. But this is not my first time that I've listened to the conversation. I understand with us wanting to maintain conformity throughout the metro, and Commissioner Townsend hit on a point that I went down a rabbit hole in my thinking. Yes, the staff's recommendation will save money on the buyer when it wouldn't have too much of a higher construction cost, which would make the home cheaper, but it would create a higher utilities. And she mentioned, but they can still do other things to help that. But that's at the buyer's and owner's expense as well. Not only they're going to have a higher utility, but they're going to have to spend more to lower that utility. I understand we don't want to make construction that much more expensive so that we scare away builders, but I'm just hoping. So Greg, is option B like the happy medium, would you say, or somewhat medium?
Yeah, it's a middle offering between all of it. And I would note that, if a buyer gets in the market and actually contracts, this is just a minimal standard. They can always ask their builder to make improvements to the energy efficiency, and they can go above code anytime. We would appreciate that. It makes it easier on us.
But it's up to the builder's prerogative, correct?
It wouldn't be at that point. If he has a buyer, I'm assuming he would have a contract with that buyer, and that buyer could put in that contract that they're to meet additional energy efficiencies that are not required by us.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm thinking midpoint. I have some other comments, but I kind of want to, if Mr. Chairman, at some point after comments are done from commissioners, I would like to hear from MEC if they are here tonight on our meeting. But at this point, I don't have any other comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're going to move on to Commissioner Stites.
Stites, District 7. Greg, if you could, and if you have it readily available, where does Bonner Springs and Edwardsville stand? They're within our county, which if folks were going to be purchasing, buying, building new homes, I think it would be important to know where Bonner Springs and Edwardsville stand if they were coming to build in our county. And I will tell you, as of right now, I am leaning more towards option B than at this point. Thank you.
So, thank you, Commissioner. I apologize. I didn't realize we dropped off those options on this chart because they weren't 2018. Although I know that Edwardsville is currently reviewing and considering moving 2018 forward. What they propose on the energy standards themselves, I'm not aware of. But I think I had on there what they were currently at, but I don't have access to that. And I know Bonner's under the 2015 standards, but I don't believe they adopted any energy provisions.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking, I see, Lavert, did you have comments you wanted to make?
I did, and thank you, Commissioner. And one of the things we are trying to overcome is some of the concerns expressed about our development and builders community. They indicate that it's difficult to do business in Wyandotte County, and we're trying to overcome that. And they complain also about some of our building requirements. And so that's why I wanted to emphasize that I think option A gets us to where we need to be to show builders and developers that we're pretty much in line with what you'll find throughout the metro area. So don't shy away from Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, because of some of these requirements. We have other things to overcome. And so I just wanted to point that out, that if we could stay pretty much in line with the metro area, I think we're better off. And that would put us with option A. And I don't know how you feel about that, Greg.
Well, I'll just quickly note that that's actually our recommendation too.
Thank you. I do see Emily Wolf. Welcome, Emily.
Hi there. Thank you so much. I'll just keep our comments brief. Emily Wolf, lifelong resident, Wyandotte County, 3rd District, and also with Metropolitan Energy Center. Thank you all for looking at the codes more. I just want to note that the blue box, you could go to that slide, Greg, it was actually done by Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, so a partner organization of ours, and they did that in November of 2021 to account for the increased building prices. But I want to say we've also sent multiple times the analysis done for the U.S. Department of Energy. And so I don't know how the HBA or others found their analysis. I would love to know, but we always go by the organization that the U.S. Department of Energy uses, because I think if you're going to go to the best resource, that's the one. And so I can more than happy to provide that again. I have quite a few times. Also, too, I just want to say bad attracts bad. We don't want to be known as, hey, people who build inefficient homes who are going to put the burden on residents. Come here, especially when almost 50% of our residents are renters. And Prairie Village and Overland Park actually have more stringent codes. So I just think what we're talking now is putting us at a race to the bottom. And, I've lived in Wyandotte County my whole life. We can be leaders. We can do better. There are 237 home builders registered in the Kansas City metro area. I'm more than confident we can attract good quality builders, because what happens is when there's poor quality homes, other people don't want to build by them. I've seen it firsthand in my community multiple times. And I just want to also note that Columbia, Missouri, since 2015 has adopted the energy code every 3 years with 0 amendments. And they said, but they were again had worrisome about, okay, builders won't come, people will complain, which they actually found it was easier because there is an optional compliance path, the HERS score, which is an optional compliance path. They found that made it easier for builders. So not only does the code get more stringent, and offers more flexibility. So again, just want to say that we need to put residents and their health and well-being first. Think about that too. Yeah, it might be X amount cheaper when you first buy your home, but in a matter of months, what is your utility?
You have 1 minute remaining.
Is your children suffer from asthma? Well, do you have mold in the walls because the insulation is moist? So I think we need to think about those things, and this shouldn't be a race to the bottom. And Prairie Village and Overland Park are going to start looking at the 2021 soon, and they already have very stringent versions of the 2018. I just want to say I'm more than happy to send that U.S. Department of Energy analysis, connect you with the Columbia, Missouri building official, the St. Louis building official, who also has adopted a more stringent code. But yeah, I think we need to talk about the health and well-being of our residents first and foremost, not just, oh, it's $3,000 less to buy a home, because there's a lot more than that plays into that significantly. So, and then also too, I'm more than happy to share again that U.S. Department of Energy analysis. But I know we have others who want to provide comments. So
3 minutes have expired.
So if I may, Ms. Wolf, were you looking at option C versus option A?
That is correct.
Thank you. Thank you. The next person I have up is Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Have we officially opened public comment? I wasn't sure how we're doing this.
She was brought forward as a panelist, Commissioner. The other attendees, there are 2 people waiting. I'm waiting for the panelists to ask their questions, and we'll move to public comment.
Okay, then I will wait until after public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. On the attendees, I have, and I apologize, I don't know which one got up first, but I'll start with Mary English.
Hi, thank you. My name is Mary English. I live in Prairie Village, Kansas. I am the Building Performance Program Manager for Metropolitan Energy Center. I've worked as an energy specialist for 15 years in this region, including as a HERS rater for 12 years. I spoke a month ago because at that time, the only option for this committee to vote on was a heavily amended residential code for consideration. This evening, it looks like there are options to consider, including an unamended code. So first, I'd like to reiterate my comment from March that when the residential IECC 2018 code remains untouched and unamended is actually a nice improvement over 2009. I hope this committee will advance the unamended option. Here's why. The first and second option still allows for an antiquated craft-faced bat for wall insulation. This type of wall insulation is inadequate and creates cold spots in the wall when viewed with an infrared camera. Much better product has been in the market for years. The third option, the unamended code, means that the builder has an option to still build with a 2x4 wall, but use a cavity insulation combined with an R5 continuous insulation. This wall system is known as the building professional world as very effective. However, if you want to talk about options, the performance path, the alternative compliance path Emily mentioned, is in this unamended energy code, and it gives building and builders great flexibility to produce a good house that is comfortable, affordable, durable, and healthy. And please remember that low-rise multifamily residential falls under this code, and that half the residents under your jurisdiction, roughly, we can supply further numbers, are renters. I want to endorse what appears to be required testing for infiltration. I'm unclear if the duct testing is going to be required in these other packages, and that's a crucial question. If you're testing the ducts, it will mean that the building will be more comfortable and even better and healthier. To not test the envelope also means that you have to guess at the amount of ventilation needed for the houses to be safe and healthy. So I endorse the infiltration testing.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you. Secondly, duct leakage testing is the best way to ensure that all the air you're paying to heat and cool a building gets to where the HVAC system was designed to deliver. For anyone that has suffered a hot or cold room, chances are you are suffering because there was no duct leakage testing. This leads to my last comment. The first 2 options still allow for building cabinets to be used in the heating and cooling system. This is not a healthy practice, and no matter how much you think you are sealing a sheetrock building up to the stud, it is still not going to be airtight enough to prevent the system's return to suck dirty air from attics and garages. I'll say it again, childhood asthma can be mitigated by ensuring good air quality in our buildings, by amending code to omit these important tests. It consigns building occupants to potentially chronic health and wellness problems connected directly back to the passage of poor code, not to mention the added cost burden on tenants and building owners with the heating and cooling bills that will be much higher with this code if it is amended.
Your 3 minutes have expired.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. English. Next, I have Sean Woods. Mr. Woods, you have 3 minutes, please, and give your name and address.
This is Sean Woods with Ashlar Homes. Business is at 2800 Northwest Hunter Drive in Blue Springs, Missouri. been a home builder in Kansas City, Kansas for about 20 years now. I just want to bring the attention to the commission that, I mean, you guys have discussions all the time about affordable housing, and this flies in the face of affordable housing. The codes were designed to be life safety issues like railings, step heights, things like that. We're now dictating to consumers what they have to put inside their houses, which is crazy. And it's running the cost of the houses so expensive that the comment was just made that most of the people that they're talking about are renters. They will never become homeowners because they cannot afford these houses. By their own slide, $4,000 in extra cost, which is grossly understated, won't pay back in 10 years. Why would somebody do this when they're not going to live in their house 10 years? Average time frame in a house is 7 years. I provide these exact options to my homeowners as options for them to do on every single build. We build about 125 homes a year. In the last year, I've had 2 people select this option of higher efficiency on their furnace, higher insulation values. Out of 125 people, 2 people have selected this. In the last 5 to 10 years, we've done things like 10 SEER ACs have gone to 14 SEER heat pumps. R10 insulation on the basement walls are now required. R38 attic insulation, or even R49 if you don't have energy fuels instead of R30. Foam and fire caulk packages, programmable setback thermostats, LED lighting. All those things are required today in Kansas City, Kansas. They were not required 5 to 10 years ago. So you are stuffing down the consumer's throat how they should build this house. So if you walk into a car dealership, they're going to tell you, you have to take the larger engine. You have to take the leather seats. That's what you're doing. Affordable housing is
You have
out
1
the
minute
window.
remaining.
Affordable housing is out the window at this point. And I have built in KCK for 20 years. For you to be aligned with other metropolitan areas in the Kansas City area is huge. We build in Kansas City, Missouri. We build in Blue Springs. We build in Lee Summit. We build in Lake Lotawana. It becomes very hard to build when one city has these out of line expectations for everybody else. And this requirement of R5 insulation around the outside of the house, it's great to say that the energy department says this is only so much money. They have no clue how we build houses in Kansas City. We do not build houses in Kansas City that you can just slap R5 insulation on. All of our shear walls and engineering are out the window at that point. We don't build double wall construction here. I happen to do it, but I'm one of probably 200 builders in Kansas City that does it. Everybody else builds single wall construction, which means you cannot just throw R5 insulation out there without going to great lengths of
15
engineering.
minutes have expired.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate you sharing your information. Thanks for investing in our community. I next have Will Reuter, and I hope I pronounced that properly. Mr. Reuter.
Yes, sir, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Will Reuter, and I'm the Executive Vice President at the Home Builders Association of Greater Kansas City, headquartered in Kansas City, Missouri, and serving the broader Kansas City metropolitan area. So the numbers that were provided from a cost estimation standpoint are not estimations, which are what the Department of Energy provides. Those are averages in which the entire state is essentially clumped together to determine what within the geographic borders of Kansas it would cost to build a house. The HBA's numbers that were provided were actual on the ground costs, estimates based on our local market, both the products that are available and the suppliers that are supplying them. So I just wanted to clear that up as well as to where our numbers were generated. Those were generated off of actual pricing sheets from people that are pulling permits in Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County today. Secondly, our costs, the producer's price index, which is the manufacturer's equivalent to the consumer price index, has gone up 31.3% since January of 2020. And there's very little end in sight as to where the costs are going to continue to level off or to even become more affordable. And as we look at the numbers here in the Kansas City metropolitan area, for every $1,000 added to the price of a single family newly built home, 951 families are priced out of it. Therefore, as we look at these, what would seemingly be a small amount of money for a newly built home, whether it's $4,000, as was indicated by that average, or all the way up to potentially $20,000 given specific square footage, you're looking at tens of thousands of potential families within the broader Kansas City metro that will no longer be able to afford something in Kansas City, Kansas. So these numbers really do matter for people, because if you are not able to buy one of these newly built homes, this energy efficiency is going to be a luxury that fewer and fewer people will be able to afford. And the Home Builders Association supports efforts that put people on a path towards home ownership. It has been demonstrated to be one of, if not the only way to build generational or long-term wealth in this country. And so if we are erecting barriers and setting this baseline, of which it is always possible to go above and beyond the existing building code, consumers have the option for the heat pump, for passive construction. They always have that option. But what we're talking about is setting a baseline. And if you move that baseline further and further away from the financial capabilities of both current and future residents of Kansas City, Kansas, we will not be able to start getting more people into that path of home ownership, and in fact, moving the goal further and further away from them. We are champions at the Home Builders Association, our members and our association itself, for energy efficiency. But we're also making certain that there is a pathway to home ownership for a broader segment of our population. And therefore, harmonizing the codes amongst jurisdictions will allow us, the largest residential construction market in the country that does not have a
Your
top
3
50
minutes have
nationally
expired.
ranked builder in it, in order to satisfy the housing needs of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other attendees. I'm going back to commissioners. I believe Commissioner Ramirez, you had you wanted an opportunity to comment. You and Commissioner Davis both. So Commissioner Ramirez, you're up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious, Emily had said it. I don't know if Emily would have this information or if our staff or somebody. She mentioned that Columbia, Missouri has, I believe it was Columbia, please correct me if I'm wrong. Columbia, Missouri has adopted the code unamended. Is that correct?
Commissioner, are you requesting that comment from Mr. Talkin?
Mr. Talkin, or yeah, anyone who can answer, because I'm trying to remember if it was Columbia, Missouri that Emily from MEC had made that comment. I'm just trying to clarify.
Mr. Talkin, can you respond to that?
That I'd have to ask if Emily would respond to that. That was her comment, and I don't want to take it out of context.
Okay, thank you.
That is correct. Sorry,
okay.
that is correct. And yeah, Greg, we also emailed that information to you as well. So that is correct.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Wall.
So since Columbia has adopted, do we have any information from Columbia, Missouri, or if not, if we could, information of how that has affected their market? If home builders have left, how has that affected their pricing of their homes and the purchasing price of homes? I would like to see that information, if at all possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis.
Hey, Commissioner Davis, District 8, we're having a very robust discussion, and I'm learning a lot here. I think given the unique circumstances and given that I know Commissioner McKiernan played a pretty big role in this conversation, I think it would behoove our committee to table this conversation. I know we've tabled it again, and Mr. Talkin, you've done an amazing job, but I think that we still have a lot of information that we need before we can make an educated decision. That is just my perspective. But I do think that giving this more time, and hopefully Commissioner McKiernan can join us Again, nothing against Commissioner Ramirez at all. I think his comments are very warranted, but just given the rest of our agenda and everything else, that is where I'm at. And I'd love to hear thoughts from you, Chair, and from others to see what your thoughts are. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis, is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make it. Commissioner Davis, motion to table.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Townsend. Might I offer a slight amendment, whether to table, whether to it, just so it's clear, and I'll ask Commissioner Davis if the intention is to hold it over to the next meeting of this committee.
Yeah, Commissioner Davis, District 8, that is exactly right. Motion to hold over to our May meeting.
Okay, thank you for that clarity, Commissioner. I second it.
This is a non-debatable motion. A motion has been made to table until the meeting scheduled for March. I will ask the clerk, please call roll.
For May.
For May, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. For May.
Roll call. Okay. Roll call. Stites?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Townsend?
Aye.
Ramirez?
Aye.
Burroughs?
Aye. Okay, committee, thank you. We will look forward to that again next month. Mr. Talka, thank you for all the information. Ms. Wolf, all of those that attended to educate us on that. Mr. Stites, I see you have your, Commissioner Stites, I see you have your hand up.
Commissioner Stites, District 7. If you could go back to slide 14 real quick, Greg, just so I wanted to just point out a, for the sake of your second bullet point, you might want to correct Commissioner Burroughs' spelling of his last name.
Oh, sorry.
All right, that's all.
Commissioner,
Thank
can I
you.
ask one question real quick?
Yes, sir.
So what, if you can help me to what you're asking for at the next meeting, or is it just you want to have Commissioner McKiernan, who's been instrumental in this, available? Is there something specific you're wanting me to bring back? I heard Commissioner Ramirez ask about City of Columbia. I can look at what they've done and how that's impacted them. Although we're somewhat of a college town, they're a complete college town, so I'm sure that they have a different approach to things than we do, but I can definitely look at that.
Thank you, Mr. Talkin. Mr. Davis made the motion to table, and I'm if it's because he would just as soon have Mr. McKiernan here to be part of the discussion, then I would ask that Mr. Davis please clarify as if he needs anything else. You met my questions. You provided the information that I asked for, and tabling is a non-debatable motion, so we tabled it. Mr. Davis, you have anything you want to provide Mr. Talking with?
Yeah, Commissioner Davis, District 8. Yeah, Mr. Talkin, you've given it. I know we've had multiple conversations on this, so thank you, number one. Number two, yes, information on Columbia would be good. I think if we can get, I know you had said that you did not, or you received too late information from MEC, and that wasn't included in the slides. And so if there was particular information that MEC was going to provide and you just didn't have time to, I would love to allow for that. And then yes, the last thing would be allowing Commissioner McKiernan to join us, and Commissioner Ramirez is welcome to join us as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, motion has been made to table until the May meeting. That takes us now to item number 2. That's the resolution of support for neighborhood business revitalization, NBR, organizations in all of Wyandotte County. And that is including Edwardsville and Bonner Springs, and an authorization to review and develop additional policies pertaining to NBR organizations. And I believe this evening's presentation will be by Misty Brown, Chief Counsel.
Commissioner, this is Z Bishop from the legal department. I'm actually taking this for Misty this evening, although I believe she's here if anybody has any questions for her. As you stated, this is a resolution of support for the neighborhood business revitalization organizations. We do have Andrea Genero here today from Livable Neighborhoods to provide just a very brief overview of NBRs, how they work, and what their relationship is to Livable Neighborhoods. So I will turn the floor over to her.
Hello,
Welcome, Ms.
Andrea.
Jenner.
Thank you. Andrea Genero with Livable Neighborhoods. We have 8 MBR organizations and they're spread throughout the city. The mission of the MBRs, mission of the MBRs is to, I was ready, I promise, is to work and serve in partnership with the unified government to improve quality of life in their identified service areas. And their focuses are on neighborhood engagement, business support, and community revitalization. The MBRs, I do handle the contracts of the MBRs every year, and then they do quarterly reports in which they're paid out throughout the year. They each receive $27,500 in which they have to match 50% of that. They are also, all 8 of them are an established 501c3 nonprofit that was established before the designation of NBR. And then the designation is provided by the commission. And anything else that you wanted me to clarify? That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Jenner. Can you share with us, I think the difference is the Bonner Springs and Edwardsville being added to this. Is that correct?
And sir, I would be happy to answer that question. So the language of the resolution just states that the Unified Government Board of Commissioners of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas wishes to support neighborhoods in all of Wyandotte County in a fair and fiscally responsible manner. Number 2 is that the Unified Government Board of Commissioners of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas wishes to utilize county funds to support and contract with a NBR organization that would service an identified area in Edwardsville and Bonner Springs, Kansas. That's the item I think you were looking at. Number 3 is that the Unified Government Board of Commission of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas directs and authorizes additional review and development of the policies surrounding the NBR application process, term boundaries, performance reviews, requirements, and funding sources. Number 4, that any development or change of existing NBR policy shall not be implemented until formal action is taken by the Unified Government Board of Commission of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. And then the last one is the mayor, the county administrator, and the unified government's other officers, agents, and employees are hereby authorized and directed to take such further action and execute such other documents, certificates, and instruments as may be necessary to or desirable to carry out and comply with the intent of this resolution.
So in short order, if I may, I want to make sure I understood that should Edwardsville and Bonner Springs establish an NBR, that we would consider that as a commission and welcome them as part of the NBR group.
Yes, I believe that that's a correct interpretation, sir.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted clarity because I know this was a request, if I remember, from Commissioner Stites. And if my memory serves me well, and I would hope that if not, Commissioner Stites, please speak up. I don't want to commit you in comments if they're not yours. Okay. I show Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank you, Andrea, for, like as we said last Thursday, thank you for everything that you do for the community. You are a one-woman band and running these NBRs and doing what's best for our community. So again, thank you for all that you do. I have, because since this resolution directly affected Bonner and Edwardsville, I reached out to the commissioner that oversees, Commissioner Stites, and we had a good conversation. And I think what we ultimately decided is, if it's up to the prerogative of this committee, we would like to hold it over 1 month so that Commissioner Stites could work with Bonner and Edwardsville to talk and have those discussions about what an NBR would look like, who would just to have those initial conversations with the two cities, and also so that this resolution can get some comments and some input from the current NBRs. It's important that their voices are heard in this. They're out in our neighborhoods every day, doing good work. So I would like to make a motion, but I don't know if Commissioner Stites would like to make any comments before I make a motion.
Commissioner Stites?
Commissioner Stites, District 7. So I wanted to ask Andrea, if you could, currently, where we're at right now, could Bonner Springs and or Edwardsville come in and start up an NBR right now without any new language?
I believe that the current funding for the MBRs is with the city. So I'm not for sure, but I would imagine that something would have to be done in order to make that county funded. But I'm not 100% sure. From my standpoint, as far as support and guidance or providing any sort of information or consulting on that, not at all. But I think from a funding perspective.
Okay. Commissioner Ramirez, I am fine with us going ahead and holding this over. And I want to get a little more information about this and actually find out why this is coming about. What's new? What has changed where we feel like this is something that needs to be changed? And Andrea, if you have any input on that, that'd be, or legal or whoever's got any information. Why now? What has changed where I feel like that we need to, or that we feel like we need to make any changes? Unless it is just in fact that we are to add Bonner Springs and Edwardsville. Thank you.
Commissioner Stites, if I heard correctly, the budget for the NBR in Bonner Springs and Edwardsville would come out of the county portion of the budget. And I don't believe at this time that we have an NBR in the county, that most of them are in the city. And I would ask Ms. Bishop if that is correct, or Andrea, whichever one would like to respond.
Sir, I can respond. The NBRs that we currently have are all in Kansas City, Kansas. And I would need to do a little bit more digging to confirm that the funding is indeed on the city side, but that is my understanding as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will make a motion to hold over so that more information can get provided and that we can have more, so Commissioner Stites can have more conversation with staff and with his community to figure out the best way forward. This is definitely something we don't want to rush and we need to take our time, just as Andrea Genero told us last Thursday, being in the neighborhood is messy. And so I think we need to have those much needed conversations. So I make a motion to hold over until next month.
Stites, District 7, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll ask the clerk before I do a roll call if there's any comments from any of the attendees or public this evening.
No communication has been received.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. I would ask clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Stites.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Burroughs.
Aye. Thank you, committee. Now, our last item of business are the land bank option application. And I believe we have Judd Knapp, the land bank manager, who will be making our presentation this evening. Welcome, Judd.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll share my screen and we'll be on our way. So for this round application, we have 3 single-family homes, 30 multifamily units, and 3 garages. Let's start in with agenda item A, and it's for the single family homes. We have 3 of them. The first one is for a single family home at 1 North 80th Terrace. The proposed project meets current zoning and planning to be a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,100 square foot house. And there are no comments from staff or the Land Bank Advisory Board about this project. The next one is for a single family home. The applicant currently owns the vacant lot at 1964 North 6th Street. Their plan was to build a house on the lot, but the selected house plan was too big for the lot that they own. That is why they're requesting the adjoining land bank lot at 1960 North 6th Street. The project meets zoning and the Northeast Area Master Plan. The next picture here was provided by the applicant, and the picture shows the house plan sitting on the lot that they own with overlapping on the land bank lot that's highlighted there. Staff comments for this one were the home would require a narrow lot review, and there was no comments from the Land Bank Advisory Board. The next project. Okay. The next project, the applicant actually wants to move an entire home from 2911 West 47 Terrace in Westwood, Kansas to a land bank lot in KCK. The original plan was to demo the home and build a new home in Westwood, but the applicant views this as a waste of resources to tear down a home and send it to the landfill. Therefore, the new plan is to recycle the home by moving it to a new location and to rehab the home. They are currently working with a contractor that moves homes. So here's the actual picture of the house that will be moved. And comments from the staff and Land Bank Advisory Board, they didn't have any. Commissioner, that concludes item A for new construction of single family homes.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the commission? Just a minute, Judd. I want to see if I've got a hand up. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Townsend, District 1. I have to say this is probably one of the more unusual situations where normally I would anticipate a lot of comments about each one. And maybe for the record, it's just best to go on and take them individually. Maybe other commissioners have comments, but if there are no other comments, I would just move to approve all 3 of these applications as presented.
Commissioner
Stites,
Davis,
District 7, second.
Okay. We do have a motion and a second, but committee, before we do that, I need to ask our clerk if there's any public comment.
No public comment.
Thank you. Hearing none. We have a motion and a second for approval of items A1, A2, A3. Clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Stites.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Ramirez. Commissioner Ramirez. Commissioner Ramirez.
Aye. I apologize. Aye.
Thank you. Burroughs.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, committee, that takes us to item B. Judd?
All right. The first application is for 24 unit row housing totaling 24 units. This is a split zone parcel. So this means that the parcel has 2 different zonings in it. So the project would require a zoning change, and this would require a public meeting. They plan to build 2 to 3 bedrooms and per unit. Each unit be 1,100 square feet with a 1-car garage. I do have to notice the next steps is the change of zone does require a public meeting. And the staff comments for this project was need to comply with the multi-family design guidelines.
Great. Item 2.
All right, so this item was originally held from the February 7th Standing Committee meeting for further conversations with the neighborhood group. The applicant did meet with the Douglas Summer Neighborhood Group on March 8th. The neighborhood group recommendation is a hold on land bank projects until the list quality of life plan can be updated. I'll give you a little summary of the project. They want to build 3 duplexes. They're requesting 3 land bank lots, and they currently own 1 in the middle of the 3. And the project meets the current zoning and the Northeast Area Master Plan. The staff comments on this one was it will require a narrow lot review guideline.
Okay. Any questions? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I am done, Commissioner.
Okay. Any comments or concerns from the commission? I see Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Townsend, District 1. I'd like to go back to the proposed project involving the 30 multifamily units at 2110 North 51st Street. I don't know if the proponent is present, but I do have some questions about the project. And let me share them. And then if the person is available, the proponent is available, I guess they can address them. Wanted to know whether or not these, and Mr. Knapp, you might be able to share this with me too, whether or not these proposed townhouses are rental properties, or are they for sale? What is the cost then in terms of whether or not these would go on the market as rentals and or buildings for purchase? I'd like to know something about the past experience with similar construction plans of the builder who's coming forward.
So, Commissioner, for the question about is it a rental or for sale, I am unsure what their intentions are. I do have a slide for their past experiences. It does say that he has developed land. He has done projects like this before. He's a real estate agent. He's an owner manager of rental properties, and he's supported by a team of architect, engineer, and a builder. So,
have these projects been done in the Kansas City area, specifically Wyandotte County, or other environs close to Wyandotte County?
I did not gather where they built projects before.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I did not know if they built projects here before, and nor do I have any addresses of projects they've built previously.
Okay. Is the proponent available? Are they present tonight? Do we know?
Commissioner, I did invite them. I do not know if they're here.
Okay.
I do not see them as attendees. I'm sorry, I do not see them.
Okay. These are in District 1. From the pictures, they look great, but I would very much want to get the answers to those questions that I proposed about the intention of the builder to have these for rent, for sale, price point, and in what other communities the proponent has constructed similar projects.
All right, Commissioner, I have them written down and I will get those for you.
Okay, so having said that and wanting to give the proponent every opportunity to give this committee the benefit of that information, I would move for this project at 2110 North 51st to be held over to the May 2022 meeting of this committee.
Okay, that's a motion. And I
That is
need
the
a-
motion. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. That is my motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? Hearing no second. One more time. Second.
Second, Commissioner Ramirez, District 3.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. I do have Commissioner Davis.
You know, I'm good with leaving it there. I was going to ask questions because I thought this was in my district, but I know mine and Commissioner Townsend's border one another. But totally good with leaving it over because I do want to hear from the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. I'd ask clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Stites,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Burroughs.
Aye. Thank you, committee. That takes us to item 2, the 3 duplexes at 928, 934, and 936 New Jersey Avenue. Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Gail Townsend, District 1. Mr. Knapp, you may have mentioned this already, so forgive me. In our notes, in the homework, so to speak, it looks like the Douglas Sumner Group was waiting to provide some additional recommendations or comments with respect to this proposal. Did those comments come in?
Commissioner, yes, they did. Since you got that agenda packet, I did receive the comments from the Douglas Summer Neighborhood Group. And to sum them up, it was basically they want to hold on land bank properties until the list quality of life plan can be completed. So they would not be recommending this project.
Okay. And I did hear, it seems like from Ms. Easterwood, Beverly Easterwood, about this. My understanding was that with respect to this plan, that the Douglas Sumner, this project, Douglas Sumner was not in favor of it, as opposed to a hold just generally on land bank, but with regard to this particular project, that was my understanding too. So, all right, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Or we ask, I need a motion to approve. Or a motion to table. I just need a motion. Okay, no motion. So I'd ask legal, what happens with no motion? Does it die?
In effect, it does die. It doesn't prevent the people making the application from coming back in the future. They can totally come back at a different time. But as of right now, then it pretty much just goes away.
Okay, thank you. Committee, if that's your wish. Okay, so item 2 is dead. All right, we'll move on to C.
Commissioner, so they're requesting a land bank lot to build a garage at 1948 North 17th Street. They currently own 1952 North 17th Street. Staff is not recommending because this lot could be better used for a house. And they said if it does get approved, the garage should face the alley, and no comments from the land bank advisory board. All right, the next one is at 909 Ann Avenue, and they currently own 911 Ann Avenue. They want to build a 3-car garage. Staff's comments on this one. I want usually we recommend alley access to the garage, but since the home already has a driveway access off Ann Avenue, the garage could work. Also, as an adjacent corner lot is so big, the bigger interior lot is also okay. So with that comment, staff is recommending approval with that. And the third one, this item was presented at the last standing committee meeting, and it was held for clarification on the driveway permit. I'll give you a little summary. The applicant was given a driveway permit for a 10-foot driveway, but the driveway built at 25 feet wide. Code requires 60% grass and a max of 40% pavement. This is why the permit was for 10 feet. The current 25-foot driveway exceeds the 40% pavement rule. I did confirm with Public Works that the applicant was aware of the maximum size of the driveway on the permit to be 10 feet. Since the land bank owns the lot next door, the applicant would like to purchase the lot and build a garage in order to keep the 25-foot driveway. All right, so what happens if the land bank lot is not approved? The applicant would have to reduce the size of the driveway to 10 feet, so essentially moving 15 feet of that driveway. What happens if the land bank transfer is approved? The applicant can keep the 25-foot driveway and build a garage on the lot. Staff comments on this one is not recommending for approval because the lot could be better used for a home. And the Land Bank Advisory Board comments was, should we be rewarding people with land for not following the rules? Commissioner, this concludes my presentation.
Great, thank you. I see Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Townsend, District 1. I would just like to go back. That's a lot of information at one time. I would just like to go back to the first one and see that presentation again and again get what the recommendation was of staff with regard to the 1938 North 17th Street.
Not to approve it.
The recommendation from staff was they're not recommending, again, because the lot is a buildable lot and it would be better suited for a home to be built instead of a garage. And they said if the garage did get built, they would make sure the garage has to face the alley.
Okay, that's for the 1948. Mr. Chair, I would ask that we, whatever the vote is, put this to a motion or not, each of these individually, just so the record is clear. So.
Okay, we can do that, Commissioner Townsend.
Okay.
I don't see any problem with that. We'll take them individually, let them stand on their own merits. So is there any comment from the public in reference to item number 1?
No communication has been received.
Thank you. Commissioner Townsend, you want to make a motion?
Well, I just wanted to clarify procedure and request that we look at each one of these individually and they rise and fall on their own merits. So that's all I'll say about that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, that's what we're doing. I'm moving now to do them individually. This is the first item up. So I'd entertain a motion to approve or deny or to hold over, whatever the committee's will is.
Yeah, Commissioner Davis just did have one question. There were no comments for this one, Judd, from the Land Bank Advisory Board. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, then I'm going to move to approve.
Okay, there's been a motion. Is there a second? I'll ask one more time. Is there a second? Hearing none, motion fails. Okay, moving on. What if we don't make a motion, it dies?
This is when you bring it legal, that's correct.
Yeah. If we don't make a motion one way or another, it dies. If you want to make a motion to hold it over and discuss its merit, we can do that. I just need a motion.
This is Commissioner Davis. Judd, for this one, can you go to the next one? I just want to refresh my memory here before I make a motion. Okay, I am Going to motion to approve. Commissioner Davis.
On which one, Commissioner Davis? We're still on the first item. Unless the committee will is to let it die, I'll clearly state for the record that there was no motion made and item 1 dies for lack of a motion.
Mr. Chair, point of order. I think you've called for that. There was one motion, it was not seconded. So I would think that's the end of that item with respect to 1948 North 17th.
That would be correct, but I'll ask legal. Does that kill the item?
It does.
Thank you. Okay, item number 2, Mr. Davis, Commissioner Davis, you made a motion to approve.
Yes, motion to approve.
Is there a second? Okay. One more time. Is there a second? Seeing none. Motion
Commissioner
failed.
Townsend has her hand up.
Townsend's hand is up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see it. It's Commissioner Townsend, please.
That's okay. Again, I would ask Mr. Knapp if he could to refresh my recollection about what the comments were respecting. We're talking about the 909 Ann Avenue application.
Yes, Commissioner. So the staff comments were, usually we recommend alley access to the garage, but since the home already has a driveway access off of Ann Avenue, the garage could work. Also, as the adjacent corner lot is so big, a bigger interior lot would be okay. And no comments from the Land Bank Advisory Board.
Okay, thank you for that. Is this a buildable lot?
Yes, it is.
What's the committee's wish?
Chair, this is Commissioner Davis. I understand the desire for infill housing. My perspective on this is that we may not get infill housing on every particular parcel. And so that is why I have made my motion. And I stand by my motion on this item to approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Townsend, looking at the size of the lot and in the absence of recommendations contrary to it and listening to Commissioner Davis's comments, in this particular case, I will second this motion.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Townsend. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the commission? Seeing none, any from the public?
No communication was received.
Thank you. Committee, that takes us to item C2.
Commissioner, we still need to vote on that one.
Roll call.
I'm sorry, somebody talked over. What?
Yes, we
Please.
still need a roll call vote on that item 2.
We did?
Yeah,
No,
all we
we-
had was a motion and a second. There wasn't a roll call done yet.
Yeah, we're going to make a roll call vote now. Am I missing something here?
No, we're ready for roll call.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
All right.
roll call. Stites,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Burroughs.
Aye. Thank you, committee. That takes us to item number C3. It's 216 North 12th Street.
Stites District 7, motion to deny.
Davis, second.
Okay. Any comments? Questions? Seeing none. Any comments from the public?
No communication was received.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, committee. I ask clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Stites,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Burroughs.
Aye. Thank you, committee. That concludes our meeting for this evening. Thank you for your attendance, and we are adjourned.
Rock Chalk.
Jayhawk.
9-3.